Cool. All right. Where's everybody coming from?
Orangeville.
Collingwood.
Brampton, Mississauga border.
So you guys know the GTA quite well.
Yes. Yeah. Well-rounded, yeah.
Well, it's funny how I see a lot of trades kind of moving out of the GTA or out of the core and working outside of the core. I guess the core is just becoming challenging these days, right?
Well, Kevin's kind of mastered it, so he's probably one of the only GCs that I know have mastered it. They're doing great downtown.
Yeah, and office fit outs, yeah. Now
What's your
it's
secret?
just
What's the
luck.
golden ticket?
Luck, to be honest. COVID scared us the most when that came around because it was an exodus from offices. So we're like, oh my goodness, so what are we going to do? But it was a blessing in disguise. We pivoted really quickly. We found a niche market with landlords, and we've managed to maximize it. Yeah.
Nice. Well, gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to have, this is all starting from you, Alex, right? Like with alt
Yes.
labor, right?
Yep.
So how old's alt labor right now?
I officially launched May 1st
Okay.
this year, and we've been kind of struggling with the users coming in, but I think I'm putting myself out there more. We'll try to get some users because it is a difficult market. It's new to everybody, and I find to get contractors to buy into something new is a little bit challenging. And but I think once they understand what I'm actually trying to help the industry out with the labor shortages, and just having the contractors work together and share their manpower with each other, like everybody, like we share manpower already with other contractors. But I find for them to share to me is more challenging because they're always busier than us whenever time comes, or they just don't bother reaching out, right? So, and I think there's a lot of companies out there that do have manpower sitting at home from time to time, either from permits pending to in between jobs. I'm in we've got the sheet metal trade as well, so we all know that it takes 4 or 5 days sometimes to get metal made, and you're constantly ordering, going to another job site. Sometimes, you don't get the material in time, and some guys have to sit at home for a day or two. And my platform, allows that 1 day or two for those guys to actually be working somewhere else and helping out other contractors. To me, a day or two helps out contractors. I would love.
It's also, Alex. It's the fear of of losing your employees to another employer. So if you have them sit at home, it's out of self-defense. If you send them back to the local, then someone else is going to.
This is what I'm excited about talking about on this show.
Yeah.
It's just like you guys we're going to talk about a 4-letter word in construction, which is technically labor.
Yeah.
Like nobody ever wants to talk about it, but everybody has a problem. Every trade I've spoken to on the show, on site, everywhere in construction has a labor problem. That word is in a sentence that's describing, I guess, the inefficiencies in their business. They're trying to figure out how to resolve it, but then we're also fighting career options outside there. Like we got a lot of kids that are coming into the industry that may not want to stay in the industry, not understanding that there's a good path to go down and learn from older people, mentors and things like that. But they're being fed, I guess, the wrong information. And then you got small business owners that are being fed the wrong information, right? So it's kind of good that you started this service. It's a challenge. You're going to have a challenge for sure to get it out there because construction and new never go together, right? They never do.
Oh, yeah. No,
it's always resistance, right?
Yeah.
So so Alex is here. How do you pronounce your last name?
Thibault.
Thibault, right?
Yeah.
And then we got David.
David Anderson, Nexus Mechanical. Alex and I are actually partners. We have sheet metal, HVAC, and plumbing in construction and service.
So you guys basically, this all came from what you
This
deal
is
with.
experience.
Yeah.
Yes,
He
100%,
experienced it.
yeah.
And actually, Alex was one of the first people in the industry. As you say, new things, sharing labor is not a thing we've done in the past, as per what we were talking about before. The fear of losing that employee, especially now, is even greater. So sharing your labor is a touchy situation. If you have an organization that will not recruit and you have to promise that, then it feels a little better.
Why don't we just get rid of that word sharing
Yeah.
and just change it to experience?
Yep.
Like they're building, that's what everyone gets into construction to learn, no?
Yeah.
That's basically it, right?
Yeah.
And then I guess last on the panel here is Kevin, right?
Yep. Kevin Marques.
And the business?
So our company's called ClearSpace, a design and build company, kind of the one-stop shop for office fit outs.
How long you been at it for?
Oh, feels like forever, but well, just going on 5 years soon. Yeah.
Yeah.
About 5 years.
Okay, sorry, I just got lost. Yeah, sometimes she sends me a little cue. And David, how long you been in the business?
Well, I'm 62 and I started when I was 18. So
You don't look 62, man.
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
So you've seen the business or the industry in general change dramatically.
Yeah, substantially. Yeah.
A lot, right?
Well, yes and no. As you mentioned before, some of those traits seem to be, something that we've had around for a long time. That mentality that going back to what Alex is attempting to do, sharing labor has not been something we've done in the past. The practices have gotten better from a safety perspective. I think technology has helped our industry incredibly. So yeah, those probably technology is the biggest thing I've seen. That's not, and I'm not just talking phones, but now the younger guys coming, they don't want drawings. They just do it on their phone or on their tablets
They
or the
want digital
laptops.
connectivity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're much better at it than, and going back, remember we worked for a much larger company and we brought in the system. What were they called, Alex? Where they laid out the whole job.
Oh, yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah, what it laid out a whole 3D drawing and perspective of the
BIM.
job, BIM.
BIM, yeah.
And, we started to train all the older supervisors and they'd be on site and it would take weeks and weeks, and we'd have a third-year apprentice go to site. It would take them 15 minutes to figure it out. So technology has really changed our
So
business.
what was it?
Yeah.
Just a frustration, I guess, from the old school dogs that were just thinking,
Yeah.
I've been doing it so many years this way. Why do you want me to do it this way?
Exactly. And
But then you give them a tool. It's different, though.
Oh,
They'll
yes.
embrace that tool and
Oh,
then
absolutely.
they'll master that tool within seconds.
Absolutely.
So why can't they master?
I think
Because
it's
a tool
fear.
you're using throughout your career, technology. Some of the older guys, they weren't involved in computers.
Yeah.
You don't know how to type. You don't know how to do this. But I think they're reluctant of diving into it and actually making something with it, right? So, and with a tool, I think like a new drill or something new, you're using it day to day already, right? So let's try it out. Let's see if it's more efficient. But for technology wise, I think the older generation, they don't think that it's worth their while.
This is a regular occurrence for him and I because my staff, they're all younger and they're much better at technology than I am. But at least I understand that it enhances our business incredibly.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's okay. So how do we begin? I want to let everybody know, first of all, www.altlaborsolutions.com is where you can find more information about
Yes.
it. If you got any questions, you can email you guys at info@altlaborsolutions.com, right? And then you're on LinkedIn right now too.
Correct, yeah.
To start the communication
Yep.
at that point. So where do we want to begin let's go with two different routes here. Let's go the kid who's getting into construction, and then let's get the older person, not necessarily much older, like in their retirement years or close to it,
Yeah.
but the tradesperson that is looking to adopt a new format for their business. Because what I've been learning from speaking to so many people on the show, it's the young and old that have embraced new ideas that have excelled. I've seen them because I see people that have a business that maybe bringing in 2-3 million. I'm talking resi because it's mostly resi coming in here, but they're bringing in 2-3 million sales, and all of a sudden they did something different. And what I get from them, they embraced technology, and all of a sudden that 2-3 mil turned into 10-15 mil. So obviously something worked by them embracing technology and trying new systems in place that made their business more efficient. So I want to begin, like, if you guys can walk us through the young and the mid kind of entering and what they should be looking for.
So I think for the young, what they're looking at, they're basically like throughout their school, like the technology is more advanced than the old. And I think in the industry kind of pushes the younger generation to be in technology, right? And I think that's one of the reasons why in my opinion, that they don't take up a trade, right? They kind of branch off. They want to go either gaming, want to build some kind of program or something, right? And it keeps them away from the construction industry. And one of the reasons why I think the labor issues today are that the older generation is retiring and not enough younger generation picking
They're not
up the
handing
tool,
it
right?
down.
Correct. Yeah. So and I'm assuming it's also challenging for the parents to get there. Like even as a construction worker, if I had boys, I'd want them to get in construction. But if they're playing video games throughout their whole childhood and in technology, like you actually have to bring them into the trade in order for them to like it. So I was raised as a bricklayer's helper, and
So you went for the easy route.
I was helping my old man like haul bricks.
Yeah,
and
one
stuff
of the
at
hardest
6,
ones out
8 years
there,
old,
yeah.
right? So, and one of the reasons why I got into construction, and then my old boss, he saw my resume. He says, "Oh, you were a bricklayer helper for this long. He says you're hired, right? So I'm gonna test you out. You must be a hard worker." But and that's the difference, I think, between being pushed into technology versus growing up in construction. But the kids that are growing up in construction and learning technology at the same time, I think those are the ones that buy into new technology when you start your construction career.
Sorry, dude.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think there's a bit different approach to it. Is I look at when I started the business, I kind of, like most of the guys that were in it, kind of fell into the construction because there was no other place to go. University, if you weren't making it in university, you went into something that was manual.
Isn't it kind of fair to say that that's today?
Well, with that said, some of the programs, not necessarily out of the union, but we were involved in a program about 20 years ago where it was a federal government program, and any of the immigrants that were coming in that may have been educated in another country in professions that they couldn't practice here because of our requirements. We had pharmacists becoming plumbers, sheet metal guys. It was a great program, and they chose which one they were going into. I would just love to see our industry where kids are coming out of high school and wanting to come in because of these new technologies that enhance our business, that they would thrive in. We talk about BIM, even our programs for estimating and such. It's the kids that could eat that up.
They used to have it though, because I grew up in Mississauga, and there was a co-op program that our school offered. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what to do at the time. Guidance counselor guided me to go to the co-op, so I did, and it allowed me to try electrical, mechanical, carpentry over a 3-month span. I fell in love with electrical. I ended up becoming an electrician because of it through the connections to that co-op. Those programs no longer exist.
Yeah.
I've been petitioning my old high school where I went through that experience and got into construction to continue doing that, because I see it firsthand. Alt labor, you guys are filling that gap for labor right now, but it's like, how do you get the new generation in? And I think it's stuff like that. You know how they do grassroots in hockey and soccer? It's like, do the same thing, but in construction. I think the government can push it. I think our schooling can push it. Unfortunately, don't. COVID stopped all those programs, and now...
But they're pushing political agenda as well.
Exactly.
No
now they're more concerned with other things that
I never understood why you would go after a segment of the population that is a political point of view.
Yeah.
But why not go after the actual segment of the population that really wants to learn and be guided down the right path?
And I think in the past, people have always had a perception of the industry as being rough and tough, and it really, it's just everybody's same as any other industry. And now, you make a good income. Our average guy probably working 36 hours, 100, 110 grand, not putting a lot of overtime in. And, there's guys that we've had working for us that, are somewhere around the 250 to 300 because they work their ass off. Sorry.
No, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. That's the thing about it. But do you, all three of you gentlemen, when you are looking at finding labor, what's the vibe that you're getting from this generation? Like, are they actually interested in the potential that everyone that gets into construction sees? Or are they just looking at it as a temporary deal?
But are you comparing the past to today?
Kids of today. I'm going to say kids of today because, sure, I get that they're all disappearing from the schools and we're not getting the teachers promoting it as much because there's so many other opportunities out there. I don't think, and this is interesting because coming up on the building show coming up, I'm going to be part of a panel to discussing this whole labor shortage thing as well. And I don't think getting it back into high schools is the answer. I think you're already too late at that point.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think you have to figure out other ways of doing it. And when you guys are meeting new employees, potential new employees, and you sit them down, you explain to them their path in the next 5, 10, whatever years, is it a positive expression on their face, or are they just thinking, do I really want to be in this industry for that long?
Well, for us, it's a different, because we're unionized. So we deal with the three locals, 30, 46, and 787. So they have their own intake, and they do aptitude tests and all that for the employees to get in. And then we just hire as we go. But honestly, the apprentices that we've been getting, they always want to be on their phone.
That's a big thing.
So that stereotype is there.
Yeah,
That's a big thing. Yeah.
It's very difficult.
Looking at what, social media, or
Or
who's texting
friends.
them?
Yeah.
I've seen
Anything,
workers on my job sites, because we have like on any given moment 12 to 16 active job sites, and I rotate between all of them.
Yeah.
I've been on multiple sites where I'll see a phone in the corner and they're doing some of the work and they're filming themselves doing the work to post it later.
Yeah.
I see it happen quite often.
Some foremen are a little bit stricter. They'll leave your phones are in the drop box. Right? Come at a break, leave the ringer on loud, and if somebody hears it and if it's important, then obviously, we're not going to be too much of hard heads. We understand that there could be emergencies out there, but when you're up on a ladder, you're not going on your phone.
Yeah,
Right? It's
It's a distraction.
Distractions.
Well, and
safety
it's,
hazard.
it's hard because
Yeah.
at the same time we've got, we're sending guys drawings and they're actually looking at them on their phones. And,
Yeah.
it's like, it's how when I go do a walkthrough, I don't take.
Challenging to look at drawings on a phone.
You're right. I find
I
it
have
very
an iPad.
challenging.
I can't do
No.
it on
Yeah,
the phone.
I
yeah.
wouldn't want to do that, right?
No, I do it all the time. Like
Yeah, so
even-
that's what the younger kids want to do it
So
that
you're
way.
just zooming in,
zoom into the area you're working.
I have to-
You zoom out, you find where you are, you zoom into that area.
You just
They're
stretch
just
the
so
phone
used.
and just make
Yeah.
the phone bigger, right?
Yeah, exactly. You're not looking on a flip phone or anything.
But you
Like
can
the-
see without
the
glasses
smartphones now
too,
are,
right?
have a bigger screen, right? So
Anyway, that I do think that we do see a very different younger people today, but it's always really refreshing. Like our last hire, he's a 5th-year HVAC. We got him into local 787, and I was just so happy to meet him because he was right into his career, which was with the HVAC,
Yeah.
which is important. When they call it a career, it's
It's different. It's not a job.
Yeah.
It's not a
Yeah.
job.
You can't consider it, and that's
Yeah.
why when they look at it as a job, I think it's a temporary mindset.
Yeah.
They're not
Yeah.
sure if this is a stepping stone to something else, but
Yeah.
they don't realize, like, does someone actually sit them down and go, listen, you're 25 years old.
Yeah.
In like less than 5 years, you can be making $100,000
Yeah.
Pretty much.
yeah,
with no student debt.
You would think that would be enough to pull them in, but it doesn't
It's
seem
not,
like
right?
that. No.
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 That's not enough, huh?
No,
Yeah.
What is it?
I don't
It's
think
gotta
so.
be
I have
250 or
I have
something?
two nephews. They're both teenagers right now, and I'm trying to get them into construction because they doesn't seem like they have a guided path right now. And their answers to me is one guy wants to be a computer programmer, another one wants to create video games, and that's their sole focus.
That's a big.
getting the comfort of somebody to leave their nest as well. Somebody that lives at home with their parents and they plan on being there for a while. I don't think it helps them. Like I moved from Sudbury when I was 18. I came down to Toronto. Bank was empty. Within 2 days, I picked up a job. I moved in with my sister and my brother-in-law, and we're just, making ends meet. And I was helping them out with rent now because I was the third wheel, and we were all bare bones. We couldn't making $10 an hour. You're not paying much on an apartment, right? And we were at close to Jane and Wilson, so at night you hear gunshots and all that, and it was rough coming from Sudbury, right? And but just the comfort of younger generation staying at home longer. Some of them will stay at home till like they're 30 years old.
Wow.
Right? And if you're comfortable with your parents keep paying you, then you're not going to go out and venture. But if you have bills to pay,
yeah.
you want to find a job,
Forcing function.
right? Yeah, and if you're not getting anywhere with your technology degrees or whatever you got, then join a trade. And some people join the trade later. I'll tell you a story. Last week, I was selling some hunting gear on Kijiji, and this guy shows up. And I started talking. We shot the shit. We were about hunting and all that. And anyways, so then he started talking. He was wearing a Synergy shirt, and they just did construction on my house. But he didn't.
Synergy landscaping or
Yeah, Synergy Interiors.
okay, all right.
Anyways, they just renovated my house, and I was like, they were just here yesterday, finishing up some deficiencies, and but he doesn't work for them anymore. And he's like, I asked him like, so what do you do, right? So he says, oh, I want to go to school as a framer. I'm like, but you picking up a trade? No, I'm just gonna go to school. I'm like, don't waste your time.
Yeah.
I said, pick up a trade, then go to school. They'll send you to school.
They'll send you
right?
to
Get an
school,
apprenticeship,
yeah.
right? So anyway, so we got started talking about the industry, and he's asking, like, do you mind asking you what you do? He said, yeah, I own a sheet metal plumbing and HVAC company. So I said, do you like working with metal? He says, yeah, I really loved when I was doing flashing and eavesdrops and all that. So I said, well, if you like working with metal, I said, I can put you in the sheet metal industry.
Yeah.
So I said, do me a favor, give me a couple of days because I'm unionized. I have to check with the apprentice intake for Local 30. And so I called the union. They said there was no intake since last April, but they want one. And I said, well, I want this guy in here. How can I get him there? He says, well, the only way to do it is they got 48 hours to fulfill my request. So if I put a request in for a guy, if they don't come in within 48 hours, I can go out, bring a guy in and say, you sign him up. And I don't have to wait for the intake. And that's the process I'm going through now. And I'm waiting until tomorrow. I put in a request in for an apprentice. And if they don't fulfill it by Thursday night, Friday morning, I called him, said, bring this guy in. And I warned him already. And he's excited. He said, he texted me the other day saying, you know what? He says, things were going bad for me and I knew something was going to look up. And he says, I'm really looking forward to this. So just that eagerness, I'm like, yeah, I'm taking you on. And, you know, I'm hoping that for the best out of it.
So what was the nucleus for alt labor what happened on the job site or off the jobs? Because something obviously happened.
So during the pandemic, we went through the pandemic and it was a struggle. But yeah, luckily during the pandemic, we had one project that was commercial, but it was in a residential building. It was 3 stories of commercial at the bottom, the rest was residential. So we were still allowed to work in it because the residential was essential service. Yep. So we were dumping a lot of guys on that project, which kind of hurt us, but we also had other stuff. And then, then we, so OSM is our association, Ontario Sheet Metal Association.
Okay.
Also linked with a Toronto Sheet Metal Association. So during they had a conference, I think it fell into 2021 at the time. So we had a conference about negotiations and all that between OSM and the unions, like the rate negotiations. So sitting during the meeting, and then they're talking about, like, you guys are all contractors here, we're all alike, and it says share manpower between each other. You guys are all short manpower, but everybody's reaction was like, I can't give any out. Nobody can give any out right now. We're too busy, right? So then, but we were just like a portion of contractors there. And so my wheels started thinking the whole ride home. I was thinking, I'm like, there's got to be a way to reach out to more contractors out there because there's thousands of contractors. And I said, there's got to be contractors out there that are in between jobs that can start, you know, like if you got 1-2 days a week that you don't want to lose your guys, or your guys are sitting at home, they don't want to leave, is to put them on a platform. At first I was going to be like, not even a platform. My first thoughts were just like, maybe I could be the middleman. You know,
you realize how many phone call, emails, like
So, but this was just on the ride home.
Yeah.
So my wheels were spinning the whole ride home. Then I got home, and I always told myself, whenever I got an idea, put it on paper, because you either forget or you're not going to do anything about it. Yeah. So even though I had a lot of work to do with Nexus when I got home, because I just spent 3 hours at a meeting, I jumped on my computer, opened a PowerPoint presentation. I just started typing stuff in. You know, and then my wife came out. So, and I kind of like, I just got this idea on the way here and started going through. And then she was engaged. And by hers, like, this is a great idea, you know, like, and then she was giving me some feedback too. And we were just putting it all together. And after I had all the ideas put in place the same night, I ended up calling the executive director of OSM, which was the... And so then I give him a shout and I tell him my idea. I'm like, what do you think? I'm like, do you think this is going to fly? You know, like, because there are limitations that we had to go around with the unions, because people are going to think that, oh, I'm taking this away from the unions, right?
But you're not.
I am not. I'm actually helping the unions by keeping every hour worked, every hour that a guy sits at home, they don't make money off them. Yep, but if I can keep those guys working,
they make money.
So right?
It's a win-win for both sides.
It is. They do allow us, and I tried to keep away from the sharing word on my platform. It's either subcontracting or acquiring. Okay. Right. So I know electrical union is really, they don't really like when you share as well, but they're not sharing because they're afraid that you're giving your manpower to them and then they're going to pay them cash. Right? But you're not.
Everything's legitimate. So
I'm subcontracting.
You have to keep a record of this.
Correct.
Yeah, it's so difficult to do anything in cash.
Yeah.
I can't imagine it and even being worried about that.
Yeah, but it's a concern that they always have. Like, as long as you're subcontracting, then it's not an issue, right? So, and it's company to company.
Yeah.
Right. So there's nothing, and all I'm charging is a subscription base. So I'm not even involved in any of the payments in the background. Right. So, and bring back to a point that we said before, like losing labor to other contractors. So what I've implemented, like, and those are all my concerns as well.
Yeah.
I've implemented a contract built into the platform. So when you first set up your company, there's a blank slate for a contract that you can copy and paste your contract in there. Then you save it, and then you wait till, so let's say now I put my contract in there, and I stipulate as well, no recruiting of my manpower, will be allowed. Sometimes you can't do it forever, but, at least 6 months or something like that, right? And you paste that in there, and then when the contractor sees your posts, and let's say I got 2 guys available for Wednesday, Thursday, they're like, I want to get these guys. So they just click on get contract or request contract. Okay. So you request contract, the contract pops up on their end, they digitally sign their end, and then they hit send. That contract goes back to me now. Then I review it, and I could tell who I'm dealing with. And if I know these guys, are not legit, or that they don't pay, there might be problems, you could decline it, right? Or if you sign it,
So you got to vet the business.
you could, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So then you can sign your side of the contract, and once you sign your contract, you hit send, the communication starts. You got chat boxes on the platform. You can chat on the platform back and forth. Where am I sending these guys? Blah blah blah. And then you got all the billing information you exchange between the two.
And everything's all fair market value, and
It is, yeah.
Like
So with the unionized, I got different platforms or different modules for unionized. So I split the non-union with union.
Okay.
I also split the residential with the commercial.
okay.
Right. So so that way there's no crossover, because I know unions don't want non-union companies to. Well, no, actually, they don't care. Actually, if non-union get your guys, because you're still paying your guys.
Yeah, but the union guys.
Yeah, the union guys don't want to be working for a non-union contractor or vice versa, right?
Yeah.
So
They can't either, can they?
So
yeah,
when you guys first heard about it, what were your thoughts?
For me personally, I thought it was a great idea, just because sometimes we struggle to get enough trades on site when we have a lot of jobs go at the same time. Knowing that he can get extra manpower at any given whim, I'm not afraid to award him more work. I can give him multiple projects because I know he'll be able to get workers now to fill them.
Is that your number one concern on projects and moving forward with deliverables? Is the manpower that's associated with the project? That
Equipment as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes it's definitely a concern for me, because it's hard for companies to say no. Sometimes they'll win a bid and then they get the work. If they don't have the manpower, they won't tell me. Now, I like to believe that I have a good relationship with a lot of the trades I work with. They'll tell me, but sometimes they're not. So when I run into those situations where I've awarded work where 20% through the project, and all of a sudden the guys are not showing up, I can ask them, "Where's your guys?" They'll be like, "Oh, I'm too busy. It's like, no problem. Go to this guy. He'll get you workers." And even if he's not on my contract, I know I can send him and like contractors and be like, "Hey, this guy needs more work. He's telling me he can't get guys on site. I need this project done. Can you help him out?" And then they can start their dialogue and hopefully get guys on site.
That's the objective. And then
Exactly.
when you first heard,
Yeah, I thought it was a brilliant idea, considering what we'd gone through, and we'd been sharing. I know you don't like to use that term, but we've been using other people's.
It's easier.
labor. Yeah, it's just easier. Yeah, it felt good. The only problem I thought Alex may have, is dealing with the unions on it. But he's got through that hurdle. So, there's, as long as we keep those rules and regulations in play, it's fair.
but you guys are well versed in those rules.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Run by
If
them
you
every
want to
day.
break them, you can break them, but you're not
Yeah, we're
interested
not-
in breaking them. You want to work with them.
And our guys are, they respect union or non-union. It's just that, they have to sign a contract as well with the union. So they want to make sure that we're supporting them. So we make sure that we keep things, the way it's supposed to be.
he didn't tell you the full story of when I told him though. One of his main concerns was me leaving Nexus.
Yes.
That's
Well, the two of us.
Yeah, but
working-
indirectly you'll be
Enhancing.
helping.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Like that's the whole objective here, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So it's not really a negative at that point. I guess the only thing that is the variable here is the actual person. How do they get wind of this?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like, because if you guys are starting this and then you're using it and it's working, how do these junior people, because they barely know the regular steps to get into the industry and who to go approach and who to talk to?
Yeah, so it's not really guided for the individual. It's more a contractor base.
Yeah, but now you're the scout.
Well, no, I'm
he still has to.
Yeah, I'm the middle guy for the contractors. So you're talking about trying to get my product out to the young.
No,
generation?
not trying to get the product out. I'm trying to get the fact that there's a product out in the market to the people that need to use this product to get the work.
Yeah.
So there's a missing link there. Like
this is why we're here.
Yeah. No, I know. It's just to get it out there. But
but I think
it's so hard to adopt. Like you get these kids that already know so much or so little, depending on how you look at it, about the construction industry. And like you said it earlier, where do I start? Where do I begin? Who do I talk to? How do I get into the union? Where do I go to school? All that stuff, right?
I don't think alt though is intended to bring more people in, because then that is another responsibility that the unions, from our perspective, are. I think it's the colleges, like you were talking about, getting them into high school.
Introducing Alt Labor Solutions, the game changer for contractors and laborers. Are you a contractor needing skilled labor, or have labor in need of a quick shift? Or how about buy, sell, or rent tools, material, and equipment? Connect effortlessly with contractors and find resources hassle-free through Alt Labor's online platform. Post job listings with project details and choose the right person for the job. Alt Labor Solutions revolutionizes the labor industry with a user-friendly interface, secure payments, and a supportive team. Visit altlaborsolutions.com and start connecting with other contractors today.
Or getting that thought at a younger age. I think breaking that barrier of what people think construction is all about is the biggest hurdle. But Alt is not the platform to bring trade people in.
In a way, not apprentices. No. But if you are a worker, skilled worker, with your license and you want to open up your own company, you can utilize Alt to be a filler for in between your jobs when you're first going to start up. So I want to start.
Which you'll need.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Right. And so you start a business, you start quoting jobs, you're dead for 2 weeks. Put yourself out on the platform. As long as you're registered, WSIB and COI, Certificate of Insurance, we have
sign off.
We have check boxes on the platform that you have. So the acquiring contractor can actually see if you have WSIB or not, and then you can request it through the chat box after when you get it, like send me your WSIB and everything. But if they don't check those boxes, you may not, sub out your workers, right? So I'm still open to having those people on there, but it's up to the acquiring contractor basically to choose. But to me, it's like some people that are reluctant of starting a business. Like when I first started Nexus with David here, we were sitting in the same room at our previous employer, and we're pretty much running the show here, and then he says let's meet for lunch, and we'll go to lunch and start talking about it, and a year later we started, right?
Well, your first problem was getting sales, getting contracts.
No, actually no. This is where we did a whole business plan together, and what happened was that we didn't account for the contractors to follow us.
Yeah.
Right? And what happened when we left is that we were inundated with contracts. Right. Everybody's like, you guys were the face of your previous employer. We dealt with you guys all the time. We want to deal with you. And what happened also is that so we were at one company and then it sold to a larger company.
Yep.
And when that happened, our previous company kind of let go of the small guy because it was a bigger company. Now we're going to the bigger contractors. Okay. When we went after those small guys that went behind, and we knew them all, so we got those guys on board, and we also got whoever we were dealing with at the larger company. So our business plan kind of went out the door because we didn't account for so much business coming in right away. Yeah. So our overhead was huge on tools, ladders, equipment.
But that's the sheet metal mechanical trade. You guys have the most amount of toys that you need to do.
Most expensive equipment.
Most expensive too.
Like we actually one of our, I think it was our third job, Local 30, actually helped us out because we registered with the union because you know, before with the previous employer, like the smaller guy, we weren't union. But when we joined the big company, we all became union. Then we kind of know all the players now. Like we were debating if we're going to go union, but like, well, everybody we know now is union,
Plus,
right? The guys
plus
that we
a lot
want.
of the work downtown, you have to be either
Yeah.
unionized or
Yeah.
equal to a unionized job.
AAA class buildings are
Exactly.
mandated.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Then after that, then we're like, we were when we were talking about, you know, our business plan and all that.
So we were inundated,
Yeah.
like you said, with clients. So our business plan went out the window because, you know, it was a graduated
now.
step. But we
It's a
went.
good problem to have. But
It is,
not at
but
that
you
time.
still have to have the capital to do it. And
But Local 30, it
yeah.
was our third job out, and they gave us a job, and we attacked it. But knowing the players, like the suppliers and their subcontractors, has nothing to do with how they're going to treat you now. Because now all these big contractors or suppliers, you have to get credit checks now. You have to start all over.
Yeah.
So Local 30 gave us a job that we were replacing 12 rooftop units. So we went to York, knowing York because I dealt with them at my other company. All of a sudden, we had to pay that money up front.
Yeah.
It was $72,000 when we first got out the gate.
Yeah.
Right. And so then I had a conversation with Local 30. I said, listen, this is what I'm up against. You know, like, how can you help me out? You know, and they're like, send an invoice. You'll get paid in 10 days.
Yeah.
I'm like, that was great. So we fronted the money, sent the invoice in, got the work done, got paid in 10 days.
That
And
still
helped us out
happens.
here.
That still happens. You know, HVAC is
Yeah.
an incredible industry. You can have accounts with, you know, 20, 30 different manufacturers, but it takes the one, you know, out of the States from somewhere at a $75,000 cost, and all of a sudden you've got to put that up front.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These guys, you know, it's like every industry, you know, it's 30, 60, 90 days.
Yeah.
Those were instant. So you don't
But
have...
that's not the norm.
No. And,
What's the max? 120?
not for us.
Honestly, we put net 30 on invoices, but
And you're getting
you're getting
not-
paid.
You're not getting
net,
a 30.
you're getting 90, 120
Yeah.
days.
Yeah.
I was just
We've
gonna
completed
say-
full jobs. Tenants have
11
moved
months.
in, and
11
we
months
haven't even
was
got a
something.
penny.
Yeah.
A year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's a crazy
Oh, yeah.
industry.
It's
for getting
insane
paid.
right now.
What's the reasoning behind that pay, like, schedule?
A lot of it is deficiencies. They think you can hold money back to clear deficiencies, but it's against the Ontario regulations.
Was against the federal regulation. There's
Yeah.
a new legislation, the Free Pay or Fair Pay Act,
Yeah.
that came in
Yeah.
and basically had a bit of steam, and then there was absolutely nothing to it.
I'll tell you why, because as soon as you implement that against that
Yeah, the client says,
client, they're
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm never working with you again. And you
Exactly.
don't want to do that. So it's like,
Yeah.
I want to get paid, but I can't push them because then I won't do
Yeah.
more work with them.
So
It's
these
like,
guys have the you know, property owners, which are, you know, Brookfields, Cadillac, Fairviews. They're not going to change their system.
they take forever to pay.
Yeah.
I've
not-
completed full jobs and not got a penny for
Yeah.
it. And I've had to pay out all the trades already. And we're talking about hundreds of
You're
thousands, sometimes
floating
millions.
a lot at that.
A lot. Yeah, it's
So-
a challenge that we have to deal with, like this year, especially.
And that's not
'cause-
normal.
Yeah, but if
general
you-
contractors will mostly just pay when get paid.
Yeah,
That's how they.
But then there's friction on site, right?
Exactly.
And then
It
now
is,
you're
yeah.
asking them
And
to
it-
start the next
And it's
project.
not like we want to create the friction. The
Yeah.
problem is, for us, our labor is paid weekly.
yeah. And you got to buy all the
Yeah.
equipment up front, right?
And,
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
some
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, but your suppliers might be giving you a net 30 at that
They
point.
work with you,
maybe,
well,
right?
60 days they lock you out.
Yeah.
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 Hard.
Yeah.
Hard.
Even like the Johnson
Because they've been
Controls.
down that road. Everybody's been down this road,
Yeah.
right?
Exactly.
That's why
Yeah.
you see it.
Yeah.
But like the larger companies like York and Johnson Controls and all them, like
They're 30
they
days.
deal with so many contractors, and everybody's in the same boat. They don't pay until they get
Yeah.
some money, right? And
They
with
harass
us being a smaller contractor, sometimes it's challenging to pay within 60 days, and then because that's when you're getting your money.
Yeah.
And what I've noticed recently is that they're invoicing on the 15th.
So yeah.
So we lose 15 days.
Yeah.
So our 60 days is their 45. Or sorry, for them is 60 and it's 45 for us.
Yeah.
Because we don't bill until the end of the month. They're billing mid-month, right? And I brought that up to their attention. I said, you're billing us halfway through, and I can't bill for another 15 days. So, you know, if I don't get paid for 60, 90 days, and like, you guys are locking us out at 60 days, and then you use it against us that we're not showing up on site. You know, so we have to scrounge up the funds just to pay them off, and then they're on site now.
It's not a winning.
Yeah.
It's not a winning.
Are
routine.
most people getting into, because you guys, I would say HVAC wise, is the number one trade.
I would say so. I grew up I did electrical.
I'm not an HVAC guy.
I did it for 20 years,
What
and
do
if
you
I
mean?
can go back, I would go back and become an HVAC guy.
It's the most appealing too for younger people because that's the most technically advanced. I have a cousin that came to work for us, and he had spent the summer with us doing plumbing. And I said to him, if you want to get into this industry, you're not coming in as a plumber. You got a university degree. You're smart. You can work through problems. So he apprenticed as an HVAC guy, and in 10 years he's out and selling HVAC. So it was a career for him, and he's done well. So it is the most technically advanced of all the trades.
I wouldn't say it's the easiest. There's a lot of hardships attached to it. There's a lot of work. There's a lot of knowledge that you need to know. But I mean, you guys just discussing the bare bones business here. Yeah. Do most people that get into HVAC, do they eventually want to be an owner operator?
I would say in all trades they're the same.
A lot of like in the commercial industry, they want to be account executives.
Yes.
Okay.
So they go into buildings and they do their maintenance and they get to know the building operators, and eventually
service.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you get to know your building operators, and then you become close to them, and then you can actually start selling them more and more. And in the field, you're actually selling the work, so you can become an account executive and do that.
It's more
with
natural
business,
for that position.
right?
You're right.
And then have your own or I guess not your own employees, but your own staff to take care of those buildings.
Yeah.
And not
you're-
have the out.
and you do the
or-
office work,
Yep.
and then you
It's
you
very
do work,
appealing.
yeah.
You're not
It is,
funding
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And you're still making more than what you would in
Get
the
off
field.
the tools and
Yeah, I'm sure there are some that eventually
natural progression as you age.
like
Yeah.
if you get into the office and you become an account executive, then you start learning more about the office, right? So,
Yeah.
And that's where I was going with it.
Yeah.
I was just trying to figure out, like you just said, like the natural progression of what a tradesperson getting into this trade, what are their challenges, right? But then also on the flip side, why do they get out of it?
yeah,
I personally wanted to get off the tools just because my body was breaking down after doing it for.
So it was a physical.
Yeah. And it's just like when you're 20, nothing, you can do
It's
it all
not-
day, no problem.
Yeah.
And you hit your 30s, it starts to hurt, and in your mid 30s, it's like, okay, how do I get off the tools? And that's when I made my transition.
yeah.
It's like
When I was young, I was younger, and I was a sheet metal background, and I had some health complications. I had to get a couple hip replacements. I'm 23 and 25, both
wow.
hips done. So
You were
basically,
pretty well off the tools at that point.
yeah. So what happened with my first hip replacement? I went on when I was in the hospital. I did my whole recovery and all that, but I couldn't be on the tools right away. So my boss asked me, he says, "Can you help me estimate?" So he brought me in the office. I started estimating. So I got to learn how to do that, right? And
Was it easy for you?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
If you
Sheet
can
metal-
see
sheet metal was
see a
easy for
job,
me.
it becomes easy. If you can see it in your head,
Yeah.
that part becomes easy.
Yeah, so especially being in the field already. And so I used to renovate houses before. It was one of the first jobs I got when I moved to Toronto. And we would do everything except for HVAC systems and electrical. We tore down houses, we built them right back up, we did everything. And so I got to learn a lot that aspect. And then I was throwing out resumes. The guy wasn't paying me a fair wage anymore. I excuse me. I insulated 2 houses within a day.
Okay.
Alone. I just whipped it up, insulated it, and he came and then he says, "Okay," he says, "now that you're done this house, go to the next one." I said, "I already did that one." And he was floored, right? And he says, "What do you mean?" He said, "You didn't believe me. We went over there, and then he says, "Wow," he says, "you did really great," right? And I just didn't stop. And the problem I had too was being in pain with my hips and all that, I didn't stop. I just kept on going, right? And if I stop, I would seize up. So then I asked him, like, "You only pay me $10 an hour. Like, it's got to be worth more, right?" Eventually, So then it was kind of a slap in the face. I got my paycheck. It was 25 cents raise, right? Yeah. So then I'm like, all right. I threw out a bunch of resumes out there,
That's where he saw the value.
That's right? So I'm like, you know what? I'm doing a lot for this guy, and I work my ass off. Like I don't fuck around when I go on a job site. I get shit done. And anyway, so I started throwing resumes out, and then this guy calls me, and he says, "Have you done any mechanical work?" "Yeah, I said I changed the motor out of my truck, this and that." And he starts laughing. He's mechanical. So I didn't say mechanic. I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I didn't understand," right? So, and
It's the same.
Yeah, it's the same, right? So he says, "Oh, let's meet," right? So we met, and that's when he hired me on the spot. Saw my resume being bricklayer's son and all that there. And then he asked me too. He said it was a Thursday. We come out of the Tim Hortons. He's like, when do you want to start? I look at him like, right now. He says, what do you mean right now? He says, it's 9 o'clock. I'm like, so? I'm like, I want a job. I want to work right now. You know, I have to pay bills. I moved down from Sudbury. I got no money. I'm like, let's go, right? He says, okay. He picks up the phone, calls the foreman, and he says, hey, I got somebody. He's on his way down. And I heard him too. He says, what do you mean right now? Doesn't he want to start Monday? I said, no. I'm like, how many days? It's still today and tomorrow. Like, let's go, right? So he's like, go. He says, you're willing to work? Do it, right?
How many times do you guys hear that?
Never.
Never.
That doesn't happen right
when
now?
when I wanted to become an electrician, I offered the company that I worked for 10 years. I was like, I'll work the first week for free. If you don't like me, send me home. So the first day, at the end of the first day, he's like, you're hired. Just come in the next day. He's like, you don't have to do the whole week. He's like, I can see what you did. I was apprentice. It's like, I trust you. But I was willing to give him the week because I was that desperate just to get in. I just wanted to get in somewhere.
Well, when I started, I was 18.
Were you going to say Arrow?
Yeah.
No, we're not going to be.
I just missed that period that you're talking about where you actually had to pay for your apprenticeship. So when I first started, I made $79 a week. And that was paid. I was paid in cash and for my whole apprenticeship. And when I left the same company at the fifth year, when I became a licensed plumber, I was making $179.
Wow.
When you left.
When I left. So as a
5 years later. Wow.
5 years later. So
Wow.
yeah, it wasn't a huge like the transition.
This
that
would have been 80s?
Oh no, yeah, it's 80. Yeah, you're right. It would have been about 81, 82. Yeah. No, it was earlier than that. It was 79.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it
I
wasn't
wasn't even thought of then.
No, you weren't. But it's interesting, the transition from apprentice, first, second, or third is substantial in our industry now. And so you go from first to second and you see what, $12 an hour jump?
Yeah.
Which is a pretty substantial pay increase. That means that, it might not be a mortgage, but it might be, guaranteed rent or a new vehicle or good savings for a young person.
If they're smart, it would be a savings and planning for the future. right?
Exactly.
If they're paying attention to the Joneses, then it's a brand new
100%.
six-figure truck or something, van or something, right?
Yeah.
But that's not what you should be doing today. But
No.
I'd love to talk about. We know I think it's a 1-to-4 ratio. For every 4 leaving, only one's coming in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is really terrible to hear, right? Which
Yeah.
is just going to make it more challenging for getting labor.
Yeah. It's
How do we, that's where I go back to, it's not about the high schools anymore. It's really about trying to get the older generation to still mentor the younger and to make it appealing to, that middle segment is missing. Like we know there's a lot of late 20s, early 30s coming in, but there's a lot of late 50s, 60s getting out. And then there isn't anything going on in the 40s.
Well, I think it touches on a couple of things. The reason why we're not keeping that age group in the business is because one of two things. They are starting their own business and they're out of the field. Or in Marques, during COVID, the guys that were in their late 50s and felt the same way you did, Kevin, that, it's a little, I'm getting a little long in the tooth and my body's not doing it. COVID kind of pushed a lot. Just before COVID, if I remember, Local 30 already had a massive...
They were looking at 500 retirees from what I heard.
With no replacement.
With no replacement.
With no replacement.
Yeah.
And then COVID hit.
And they're all
then
like
a lot of
packed in
people
early.
retired early.
Yeah.
Is that announced to all the members? Like,
No.
No.
So why isn't that information shared?
Well, I think the industry knows it. It's just just
I think
trying
it
to
was a mistake of them not forecasting it.
Yeah.
And I think the industry, especially with like baby boomers and all that, because there's a lot more older generation that were retiring, and then that kind of stemmed down to like every year after that. There's more and more retiring, but not more and more
And
coming
it's
in.
not just this country.
right?
It's just not this
No,
province.
everybody.
Anybody
I've
involved.
spoken to many people outside of North America, Europe, all over, and it's the same problem.
It's the 11, 12 countries that were involved in World War II. Baby boomers are dying. I'm the last bit of the baby boomers, and we're retiring, and and
So
that's
should
it.
we not be educating everybody that's in construction, letting them know that for every 4 leaving, one's coming in? But
Yeah.
even as scary as that stat is, about 500 retiring and nobody came in.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's either you look at scaling down your businesses, but in your case, your
you
business
can't.
I'm
can't.
scaling
The
up.
infrastructure is still
Yeah.
growing. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we know for a
Yeah.
fact that Toronto has the most cranes in this country right
Yeah.
now, more than any bigger city in the States.
Like
Yeah, that-
combined, like
Combined.
the top
Combined.
5. Yeah,
So
that's
it's like
crazy.
if we've got this much work is happening, then we need the workforce. But if 500 is going and nobody's coming in,
I believe they're
Yeah.
they're banking on the immigration rates because they're increasing it.
We do need more immigrants.
Recently, I've hired the last 3 hires have been immigrants.
I'd love
Within
to
the
know what
last,
the stats are on the immigrants.
I would
how
love
many are
to-
actually going into construction
yeah.
that are actually being productive in construction.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I got to tell you, that program that we had in our first company, it was quite a success from my perspective. If we can get back there to it, and what you mentioned about the immigration, we do need in this country, 500,000 people coming in. The problem is we don't have enough housing, so that we've got this, Achilles heel right there. And it doesn't matter how good and how long they stay in the trades. If you can't get them here in the first place, you're not going to get the volume
Well,
into
they
the
can't live here.
No, and if-
they
and
can't
it-
get approved
can't
for
leave.
a mortgage or rent.
And who's buying a house, a first-time house at $1.5
No, you
million?
can't do that.
You know,
It's just
it's
not
not
feasible.
happening, especially when you're coming with.
So there's a
200
lot of people coming in, but there's a lot of people going out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not staying put, right? So we're losing people. That's why I wanted to go. It's nice to do the media bite where we got 1 million came in, but
Yeah.
okay, how many of those are staying? How many of them went into construction?
How many
of them
come
are
to
buying
Ontario?
homes? Yeah,
Yeah.
And well, we know for a fact the majority of them are in Ontario.
Yeah.
in this GTA area.
Majority, yeah.
Oh, 85% come to the GTA.
Yeah.
Yeah, not like the 50s and 60s.
So I don't think there's an option to scale down anybody's business.
Yeah.
No, and I think with what I've been told too, I met with Monty McNaughton's team, Labor Minister, before he resigned.
Attention contractors. Alt Labor Solutions is here to transform the way you manage your workforce. Imagine having the power to share your skilled laborers on a temporary basis with fellow contractors who are in need. No unnecessary layoffs for your employees, and best of all, you get paid for the transaction. Alt Labor's innovative platform makes this possible and simplifies the process of lending your workforce, allowing you to collaborate seamlessly. Don't miss out on this game-changing opportunity. Visit them at altlaborsolutions.com and discover the future of flexible labor management. Alt Labor Solutions, where collaboration drives success.
So then they're looking at the Alt Labor Solutions. I've showed them the product, and they asked me, like, who do you think this benefits? All right, let's go down the list. The employees.
Yes.
Employees can work a full day's pay or a full week's pay and not miss out on any kind of days off. The employer, the employee's an employee, they can maintain the relationship between the employee and employer. I get threats if my guy doesn't get 36 hours a week. If you can't keep me working, I'll go work with somebody else that can. So for me, this platform means a lot. If I can get a lot of users on there, I can make sure that my guys are working. If not, I'm reaching out to other contractors. Can you use a couple guys? And that's what I've been doing so far because some of them aren't on.
Is it
on the
easy to give
platform.
them those 36 hours? Is it?
Most
Or is it a
most
challenge?
No, most weeks it is.
Most time of the
As
year.
long as you're, especially on the sheet metal side, as long as you're organized, and we try to. It's what is challenging is knowing what work you're going to get when you're bidding a job.
Okay.
Right. So you almost have to overload yourself a bit to keep your guys busy. Right. And if you don't overload yourself, then your guys are sitting at home. Right. So
sheet metal's a
yeah.
different trade again. As Alex said earlier, you need 3 or 4 days. You go in,
Yeah.
you measure your job. It has to be made up.
You gotta
Plumbing,
fabricate it.
you call and say, I need 2 more lanes.
They deliver while you're working on
Exactly,
something.
exactly.
I love
so,
seeing that.
Yeah.
So when he says overload, it means you have to schedule more jobs in that
Yeah.
period.
And it is challenging as a business
Yeah.
owner to understand when the sweet spot is on how you're pricing.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you'll price all. Let's say we're throwing like 20% markup on all your jobs. That's kind of a percentage that you're gonna win it or you're gonna lose it, right? You're kind of in between. But I'm busy right now, so I'm gonna keep my markup up high. But then all of a sudden, my guys are finishing off the jobs. No new POs are coming in. Then you start pricing everything at 10%.
Yeah.
But then all the 10% stuff comes to you
And
later
when-
on,
and
and
we
then now
use
you're
it.
over busy. Then it's a very sensitive game on how to actually understand
That's
where
construction,
you're going, right?
though. It's
Yeah.
just highs and lows,
Yes.
constant.
Yeah.
My 20 years, that's I've noticed that across every industry I've been in.
Yeah.
There's highs and lows, and you can never forecast it correctly.
No,
No, it's tough
Doesn't
because
matter.
what we were talking about earlier in the sense that of your costs. So you're gearing up for a large job. All of a sudden now you have to throw that much more capital to the job. And, your overhead sticks at 13, 14, ours does anyways, 13, 14, 15%. That just jacks that up. So now you're not making that money yet. And when you say 20%, that's not including our overhead, right? Our overhead. So it is a sweet spot, and it's 1 or 2 degrees, our percentage marks that you can lose the job or gain it, or that costs you money because you're putting that much more on it if it's a larger job.
Yeah.
So it's really, it is a real sweet spot.
Going back to my meeting with Monty's team there. So anyway, so one of them was the employer, the acquiring contractor. That's a benefit to him, to that company, so that you can finish your jobs in time. You get extra labor for a limited time. It could be a day, it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, however, right? I lent a couple of guys out right before school started because the contractor I deal with, he's involved in finishing schools, and schools are very challenging on schedule, right? Because they threaten back charges if you're not meeting the deadline, and
Lots of threats in construction.
It is, yeah. Well, they need to meet the schedule because of
Liquidated damages.
Yeah,
Oh,
so-
was there?
Let's use the word deliverable.
deliverable. Yes. And so then they're like, well, you're forgetting something. Who this would benefit? I'm like, all right, let me have it. Ontario's GDP.
Yeah, 100% it will.
I said, all right, well, I didn't, being where I am, I didn't think of that, but talking to you guys, and if you guys think this is, can enhance Ontario's GDP, then, help me out here, right? So
Didn't it recently drop?
I'm not sure.
I thought it recently. I saw somewhere.
yeah, it's because they didn't buy into alt labor solutions. Right?
No, but you're right. Is that they're not feeding the right trough? I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Monty was active on meeting with unions and other contractors and that, but I don't think that he was solving the issue at hand, And I'm looking at it as that our manpower is not being scheduled properly out there. And if you have guys sitting at home, then those guys could be utilized elsewhere, right? And let's tap into that market. Who knows how many guys are sitting at home today?
I get the sense.
Like MedCan. Have you ever seen their format?
No.
It's private practice of medicine.
Okay.
So how I understand it is they are just masters at scheduling cancellations. So they have so many doctors that are involved in their organization. If they have a cancellation next Tuesday, they let MedCan know, and MedCan has a certain clientele, and they just roll into that cancellation. This is the same type of thing. If you know that next Tuesday you've only got work for the guys until that Tuesday, and Wednesday, Thursday, sheet metal does some work on Friday. That we can sub them out somewhere else.
Are we fair to say that there's always work somewhere in everybody's
Yes.
city?
I would believe so. Yeah.
There's got to be work all
Oh,
the
yeah.
time, right?
Yeah.
But is it the business or the industry's ego that's preventing? I don't want my guys going to that job site.
Well, it's a fear of loss in my mind.
That's
Yeah.
what it is.
Fear of
right?
loss, yeah.
Because if they go
you got-
and they love it that much more,
Exactly.
they're not going to return.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah,
the-
it's like
the
those
fear.
Jiffy apps. If you hire a handyman from Jiffy and you
Yeah.
like them,
Yeah,
I've done it a couple of times personally myself. They're like, "Hey, stop going through the app. Just come with
exactly.
me directly."
And if
Then
you
I
do,
do that.
Home Depot, somebody will come in and do
It's
a
the same thing. It's the
floor.
same thing,
They'll
yeah.
say,
Yeah.
"You just call me direct."
So
Yeah.
with alt, what I
Without, they'll.
so with their contract, it's contractor to contractor, agreement that, okay, if
That's
you put
what
on there,
saves it,
no recruiting my guys because I'm helping you out, right? And, to me, I always like to say, like, we're back in the old days when a shake of hand is good enough, but it's not good enough these days, Engage in a contract. I do have rules and regulations. If, somebody does complain that, that you stole a guy, then I'm going to kick you off the platform, basically.
But
right?
isn't it like you want them to go because you want them to also come back because
Yeah.
you'll have another place, and when they have it
Yeah.
slow,
I think
So
I think
so
you're
for the
going to
most part-
force employers to be better to their employees, because if you
Yes.
treat them really well, they're going to come back.
Yes.
If you don't treat them well and someone else does, and you sell them out for 2-3 days,
Yeah.
then they're going to go to that company and be like, "Oh, maybe I'll learn a lesson. I'll treat them even better." I think ultimately
Well, like-
you're actually making it better for the employees.
Yeah.
To your point, you were willing to be hired right then and there.
Yeah.
To your point, you gave off a week, but you were hired after the first day.
Exactly,
So
yeah.
it's like if you've got a good employee,
Yeah.
then
They
they're
won't
going to
leave
work
you.
here. They're going to work here. And to be very honest, to all the junior people that are getting started in the business, you're only going to better yourself
Yeah.
because now you get an
Yeah.
opportunity to work with other people, other systems, other experiences that will benefit you in the end.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
just stay stuck in one tunnel, fine, you could become really good at your skill at that point. But can you imagine what you could become if you go
It's,
in?
it's another side of that, though, is if you go back, not this generation by any stretch, I don't blame them because the employer has to pull their weight as well. But if you look at the large employers, people would stay in those organizations for 20, 30 years because there's some loyalty. There was security, but there was loyalty. And I don't blame people for not having loyalty because from a couple of points. So even if they're young, especially if they're young, and they do want to experience more than just what we do or what you do, the attraction is to move to somebody else. And in our industry, there's no real fear of you being transient other than, you worked if you've been let go of several different locations, then we look at, well, it's your issue, not the company's issue. If you're going every 2 or 3 years, we think, well, that's because they were on a big job for a year or 2 years and they're moving to another
They were
job.
looking for advancements as
Yeah,
well, right?
yeah. So it's hard to be loyal, especially if you're young, trying to get all the experience.
I think the construction industry is where you look for the security. You don't necessarily look at the
If you're a good
employer
worker,
individually.
you'll have security. That's
Yeah,
It's just the bottom
If
line.
you're,
That's
if
just
you're
how it is.
interested in absorbing the knowledge and
Yeah.
understanding the trade and bettering yourself,
Yep.
there's always going to be
There's always going to be work.
Yeah.
always, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Especially in Canada here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if you're not good at what you do and you're just trying to take the easiest path at all times, you can join a union and they can float you through. But when times get slow and you get put on that list, you're gonna be sitting there for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you're motivated to be good. Generation has definitely changed. When I grew up, we weren't treated that great as an apprentice. You're kind of
Yeah.
shit on most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
Nowadays, it's like you can't do that to the apprentices because they'll be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Or I'll go somewhere else. So the mentality's definitely shifted. I treat my guys a lot better. I like buying them coffees. I buy them T-shirts and hats. Even the workers, the contractors that we sub out, we give them T-shirts. And they're like, what the hell? Why are you giving me this? I'm like, just appreciate your work. I'm not trying to buy you. Just appreciate your work. They're like, no one does this. I'm like, why not though? This is why people don't want to be in construction. So we have
You
to
can never
shift.
give out too much swag.
You can never give out too much, right?
Anybody in construction will always think so
They will
much.
love it. Yeah. Even just the
They'll
coffee
never
will
look
go
at
a
it
long
like,
way.
why
Wow.
did you get me that?
We showed up on a site this morning early without coffee, and our guys let us have it.
They really-
It was last minute. We didn't realize how close they were to here. So we
walked
just
in.
popped in. We're like, okay, we're ready.
Exactly.
Surprise. Hey,
It's
where's
like,
the coffee?
next time you
Where's
come
the
here,
coffee?
you
You're
bring a
right.
coffee.
You were absolutely right.
I think they just wanted to pick a bone. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Like,
Maybe the day was going too well, and they're just like, let's
Yeah.
make it a little rough
Yeah.
today.
At 6 o'clock, they had their own coffee in their hand already.
Yeah, they've already had a couple. Yeah.
So what do you guys? There's a nice cross section here, but what's the number one reason why a person leaves the trades?
Oh,
I
to
left it
leave the
for-
trade completely or leave the employer.
Just leave the trade completely
I would have to think
Better
probably
offer
better
something else.
opportunity.
Yeah.
in a different industry.
Because I was in electrical, then I left for our sister company, which is like wireless charging, completely different industry, and it was a great opportunity for me. I was going to make less, and I knew that, but I saw it as a great opportunity to learn, expand, and then I ended up going back into construction anyways. But that was the
you
reason.
had that experience.
Exactly.
I think the
So-
main reason is just retirement.
Well, I did
the
it
main
for
one.
something I thought was a different interest altogether. I got involved in politics and got back into construction.
Didn't you mention that in a recent podcast that construction and politics don't?
Well,
mix?
I didn't because I lost
said that,
$30,000
a
a year doing it.
construction
Yeah.
tradesperson. I guess I'm trying to use my words wisely here. Is not really corruptible.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like if they're really passionate, they love their skill, and they're really about the industry. And I am saying that if you get into politics, you have to become corrupt.
Yeah.
Because you have to bend.
You don't have to become corrupt. And I left, but there's 2 or 3, and I only say 2 or 3 because there was a ton more that what you said is absolutely correct.
You bend to their way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's the unfortunate thing because was this country and every country not built on an infrastructure of tradespeople building this city and all kinds of things, and at a time when people were passionate about building these things.
Yeah.
And now we're questioning whether or not to build these things, right? And that's, I think, from leadership coming right back to us, where it's so much. Why is there so much red tape? Why are there so many gatekeepers? Why is this all going on? Why can't we just look at the better of the entire? You know what I mean? Instead of the individual. I just find that, and it was, I've said it before, I think it was David Suzuki, it was guest speaking keynote at a Suprema event. And he was saying, he opened up his speech by saying the purpose of a politician from the time that they get elected is to be reelected.
Yeah.
That's their number one priority.
Yeah.
But that's not the purpose of a politician.
No.
That's where I
Should
go
be
with
serving
corrupt.
us, eh?
Exactly, right? So it's like the infrastructure, the construction infrastructure, the purpose of us is what? We're delivering a product. We're building something. We're installing something, servicing something. We're contributing to building something, right?
Yeah.
That's the purpose of a tradesperson. But why is it that when it comes to these people who have these rules and regs or whatever, their purpose is to just stay in that
Red
position?
tape it all, yeah.
Well, yeah, politics is.
How long did you stay in politics, Dave?
I ran one a term in East York as a counselor and got involved in it from kind of a back door kind of scenarios while I did advising and I did some assisting in larger offices and such. So got people elected, and the good thing is I met my wife that way. And I got back into construction not there long after, and to this day despise the political.
It
So we're
limits
on the
us.
same page.
It definitely limits us.
I have some great friends that are the most honest people, but I can tell you, especially at this place downtown Toronto, that horseshoe is exactly what people think it is.
Yeah.
I can count on one hand.
And that's what I was saying, is that if you get a tradesperson who wants to come in, like, listen, you get enough tradespeople in this country in particular, we will solve the housing problem.
100%.
I guarantee you we will solve it.
100%.
First thing you have to do is get rid of the politicians.
Yeah, even
move out
some
of the
of the
way.
people coming in are qualified electricians and plumbers in other countries, and then when they come here, they have to restart from zero,
Yeah.
which makes no sense
to me.
Like, okay, maybe not zero, but make them a third or fourth year, so this way it's only one or two, and they're back to
Do
Evaluate
you not
them.
think that you could take a tradesperson from another country and put them into this scenario and just...
It would be a
No, you have
quick
to
ramp up.
evaluate them, see where they are.
It'd be a quick
Absolutely.
ramp
great.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would have to adapt on how things
Yeah.
work. of
But I don't
course.
think it will take
It
that
don't.
long.
No, you're absolutely
No.
right.
No,
Sure.
but we have inspectors, we have rules, we have regulations that will ensure that the quality of work is still being exercised to the right.
Yeah, I wouldn't put them.
Hopefully,
I wouldn't put them as a foreman to start or
Yeah.
anything.
No,
No,
it's
no,
not.
but the
Work
thing
under
is,
it,
I
yeah.
think for them to adopt it is going to be pretty
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
If they've
Oh,
already
absolutely.
experienced it certain ways.
Yeah.
And also, why are we not, as a nation, paying attention to how these other countries are doing their systems, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like electrical and HVAC is slightly different in the UK and Europe and everything like that, but it's still applicable
Oh,
to the work
100%.
that's in hand here. There's a reason why this show is listened to outside of Canada, and I'm still dumbfounded by it. But I realize that we still speak the same language.
Yeah, the basics, the base is still there.
Yeah,
you know, the
So that's
final
why I think you
outcome
can
might be
speed it
slightly
up, and it
different.
should be almost like, okay, go spend time with Kevin, go spend time with you guys, and all of a sudden, yeah, I could totally.
But I
assess
think
this
it's
person.
essential that we have certifications that we have.
Yeah,
I
100%.
you know, I've had
But I
two
think they will
experiences.
pass those really quickly.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
but I've had two experiences. Once with a immigrant family that we've helped in our neighborhood, and he felt he had no specific trade, but he felt he could do the whole kit and caboodle. And it scares me when someone says I'm an electrician, HVAC, and plumber, and he's 27 years old. You know,
I'd be a little nervous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
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 And then I had yesterday a new product coming into this country, and it's been around for 50 years, and they want to come in, and they still don't understand the conversion between the 230 16 amp and the 110 15 amp. And I'm thinking, hold on a second, you've been in this business for 50 years in your country, and you're coming here and have no knowledge of our country, and you're going to flog your product. And so that scares me. We have regulations and certifications for a reason, and we all know what it costs us to pay insurance. I see that as much more than most.
And we don't want to use it.
And we don't, but we end up having to use it. And when we go to the inspectors nowadays, the inspectors are super inspectors that have a 3-month training program, and can't talk apples to apples, and that scares me as well. So we do have to put them on the right track. I'm sure that, you know, if we had different regulations in medicine, you want to make sure they're up to date here before they do heart surgery. So anyway, I think
Construction, I think
Yeah.
we're all on the same page where
Yeah.
it's like, I think if you put a system in place where you can test the individual,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Whether
Just
they're shadowed
expedite
by
it.
somebody
Yeah.
and they spend time with them and they go, listen. And also, to be very honest, I'd enjoy and embrace that conversation because now you as a Canadian can actually ask the questions of them and what
Yeah.
they do, where they came from.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so you can be knowledgeable at that point because you never know with your life situation. Maybe you pick up and you decide to move somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got a trade and now you can go to someplace else. And guess what? You can get a position in that country now.
yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, yeah, and you know, our country is moving. If you look at what's happening with the fossil fuels and the consumption tax and everything else, you know, the pushing of heat pumps and electricity. We're lucky in this country to have the natural resources we have. You know, Quebec's got more hydro than most of Europe. You know, so we've got to understand exactly where they're coming from, what the new things are that we can take in. We probably consume a little more than what we actually need to.
Oh, this is
And-
North America.
Exactly.
We're not of
There's
the
a bit
mindset
bit of
of-
sarcasm there.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no, like, which is like, do we really like before off mic we got started? You guys were telling me about a project that you guys were working on that had 5 figures in the square footage count,
Yeah.
and it was a family of 6 at the most, right? And I'm just like, I don't
insane.
get it.
Eight chillers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eight chillers.
sense.
Right?
They had rooftop units, 4 rooftop units on the house.
For a home.
For a home. And that was
that-
just feeding the second floor and the attic.
So there's a little bit of indulgence here. Like people,
Yeah.
Well-
you don't need these structures for residential. You don't need them, but
No.
they do it, right? And that's why I started thinking about this younger generation coming in. Is they're like too much, and they're just overwhelmed. It's kind of funny how it's just trades. A lot of people look at it as blue collar. It's just trades,
Yeah.
but
So
there's a
much
lot
more.
of skill and there's a lot of
Yeah.
work involved and experience, and you need to know. And then you still need to know the business side
Yeah.
of the business.
I think
It's-
construction is still very archaic in a lot of ways, and like if
yeah.
you're a young generation, I'd find that so exciting to like bring in the new technology, a new way of looking at stuff, and then capitalizing on it because a lot of people are like old school and they haven't, and
As you
not
turn
you,
to
but
me.
it's just like just old school in general, and they don't want to learn the new way. So if someone can
Yeah.
come and capitalize,
But
on
you know,
that, that's- I feel like we're doing that already.
Problem solving is problem solving. It doesn't matter what industry you're in.
Yes.
It just happens in construction that you have to sit there and think about. You go through a process of elimination, and that process of elimination can be used in just about any industry. You know?
But that's where the challenges are. That I'm saying that these individuals coming in
Yeah.
Yeah.
should embrace them,
Yeah.
and then find individuals like yourselves to understand that I could be educated that way. And even with alt, that makes sense because I truly believe it's a benefit to go from employer to employer to employer.
Yeah.
Oh,
You're going to
for
get
the individual,
such a
you're right.
section of experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing I'm going to push as well is that the employer actually get into a contract with the employee for the employee not to jump ship. And a lot of the guys, if the guy's no good, especially at union side, you're not going to put him on the platform. You're just going to throw him back at the hall, right? If
Yeah.
times are slow. But these are the guys that you want to keep and that want to stay here. Like I tried to recruit another guy from I just word of mouth. He's not working right now. He's sitting at home. Give him a shout, trying to get him over here. He says, I really love the company I'm at. He says, I don't know if it's greener on the other side, but I really love it. I said, listen, I'll pay you what you're getting paid. Like I can't really pay you more, whatever. But if you don't want, I respect that you're loyal to this company. But that's the type of guy that he's loyal. I have really loyal guys at my company some of the guys actually were apprentice under me and they're working as a foreman now. And that guy won't leave me. I know that. I could put him on the platform. I'm sure that he's never going to be on that platform
He sees
because
the value.
he's the best guy out there and he's going to be the value, right? But for me, the guys that are loyal that the employers don't want to get rid of and that they know that they're going to stick together and you put them on the platform. I have guys that, threaten me to leave if they don't get 36 hours. But if I keep them 36 hours, they respect me for that. So I throw them out, or not throw them out, sorry, I throw them to other contractors. And then I still pay them 36 hours. So
The
they're
majority
happy.
of the guys want minimum 36.
Well, that's the union rate. That's the union hours. So it's 4 9s, and then they don't work Fridays. So
Yeah.
that's the plumbing,
That's
plumbing
for
and
sheet
sheet
metal
metal.
and
Yeah.
plumbing, right? Yeah.
Sheet metal and plumbing. So then HVAC is different. Those are 5/8, so they work to Fridays. You can bring them in on 4/8 and a 4, but you know what? You're paying extra parking. You're paying
it's not
zone
worth it.
allowances.
It makes no sense,
For 4 hours. You're not productive for 4 hours, right? But some projects actually demand a foreman on site, like larger projects, because if there's questions between other trades, 'cause every other trade's working on the Friday.
Yeah.
And then we'll throw a foreman and say, okay, go in for 4 hours, you know, and
We
whatever, right?
did a study actually in how many hours we get out of it during the certain type of shifts, and we were getting less than an hour and a half of production on a Friday morning, on a Friday.
That's why you guys cut out
For
Friday.
a Friday half day, you were getting less than an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
It does make sense because their focus is elsewhere.
Their focus, especially working till noon.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
I got the
by the time
car
you get
packed.
started, you're like, oh, I'm out of here.
I got
Yeah.
the car
Yeah.
packed, ready to go to the cottage.
Yeah.
Makes it easier on the office staff too when the guys are off on Friday.
I have to hear all the other trades complaining that you guys are off on
Yeah.
Friday. I'm
Yeah.
like, where are these guys? Why are they off on Friday?
Would it be better for the whole industry just to go 4 nines? And have that
I think
3-day
it's
weekend?
essential.
I
have
personally think so.
You
yeah.
think so?
But
I
the
think-
thing
Well,
is,
that's
that
interesting
a
to
lot
hear
of the
that.
guys want more hours. That's the thing. So they won't do it.
Yeah.
The culture that
4
sheet
10s.
metal, and you start as an apprentice, so they're conditioned that way. A lot of other guys are like, "Can I work Saturday?" They ask me, "Can I
Yeah.
work Saturday?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I don't mind.
But our
Doesn't
biggest
matter to me.
complaint about the 4 days is from GCs typically.
Yeah, no, it drives
And,
me
I've-
crazy.
We've won jobs and clients over based on the fact that other companies wouldn't show up on Fridays.
Yeah, yeah. No, it drives me crazy when I'm trying to do a push and I need you guys there and you're not there. But you know, we've learned to adjust our schedules to accommodate that, right? A lot of these other guys don't do that, and
But
then
if
they
everybody
scramble.
went on 4 nines, wouldn't it be a more efficient industry?
I think so.
It would be more efficient for the employer because, as Alex says, the amortization of the costs is better. We have to
Yeah.
pay their parking, you know, travel, all that stuff. So if they're from in one area versus another area, union, we have to pay that. And so
But for non-union, like they'll work 44 hours, right? 5/8. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's.
Yeah, that's kind of the standard.
That's how I was raised up in non-union, and
Yeah.
I would work 60, 80 hours, and you know, like it's just not. I was
we have
working,
still have
it-
guys that
but
work that.
you change to unionize, and you're promised when you go from non-union to union, you're promised double time after 36. So if you're working the 60 hours a week, and you're like, oh, I could go double time, anything over 36. So in your mind, you're calculating that you're going to get double time. You join the union, what happens is that you're limited to 36 hours.
Yeah,
now,
they won't let you.
right? We're going to hire more guys from the hall now that we're a union, and we're going to just have more staff, but you're not getting overtime. We can't afford double time, right? It's not time and a half like you're non-union, you know. So, but some of the guys realized that wasn't the case, and our other company, the plumbers actually went unionized because somebody brought them in and sold them the story that all the hours over 36, you're getting double time, and came up, you're not getting any. So they actually got a pay cut.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you guys feel that, I mean, I want to get a little bit back onto political. Would it benefit the construction industry if they gave us more incentives to have people work more? So I'm just saying,
So
what if
you're talking politically, I think the biggest advantage is what you were talking about earlier, which was to streamline our permit, not just permit process, but from a development
Just zoning,
perspective.
everything, all that stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, if you can, the average simple zoned location is taking 18 months.
It's too long.
It's the longest in North America, and I think that I've heard that it's the longest in the world, our process.
We've gotten that bad.
We're doing that badly. So I think it starts there right from the get-go. And then our permit process, the review of a permit process in Toronto has become fairly streamlined, but is still so cumbersome. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think the engineers should have more power, and they should take an extra
Yep.
course to take, like as an inspector, just to understand.
Self-regulated.
Right? And
Yeah, that's how Montreal or Quebec is.
Yeah.
There's a lot
Like
like
when
take
we-
that away
yeah.
from the inspectors, and half the time the inspectors rely on the engineer to stamp
Anyway.
Exactly.
Anyway,
So they're already doing it.
correct. Yeah, so the inspectors don't want to be reliable. So as long as you got your engineer stamp on it and they okay it, then fine. Well, why am I going to you now to sign off on this job?
Yeah.
Right? Why can't the engineer do it?
Well,
He's
I
already
was
on the project.
thinking more incentives of, like, if you're a business owner like yourself, that if you hit certain marks where you're giving so much employment to so many more people and you're furthering and achieving projects, you should be rewarded for that.
Yeah.
right? By the government is what I'm saying. So then they'll give you a reason. So then it motivates you to spread the wealth and get more workers and then more projects, and then you just continue to grow.
It'd be great if there's subsidies for that. I would take them all day.
But it's got to be the levels, because to the smaller contractor, like, we don't want to build big. We're at a comfortable stage right now that it's manageable. You know, like, we don't have project managers. Like, I pretty much estimate, project manage. Like, I did bring up an HVAC guy to help me project manage, but we do it all. But we're comfortable where we are, and as soon as we get bigger, there's more staff, like office staff, and then there's more overhead. Like, we all work remotely. We started in 2014, and we started remotely. So this whole pandemic thing was a breeze for us. We're already in it, right? So, and our overhead is low because of that.
Well, we realized through our other experiences in other companies that, you know, when you're looking at 22 to 28% overhead, it's hard to do business unless you're you know, only jobs you're relying on are the big ones that you've bought.
Attention contractors. Alt Labor Solutions is your secret weapon to boost your projects to the next level. Why handle labor shortages on your own when you can get connected with contractors who are ready to contribute to your success? With Alt Labor Solutions, finding additional labor for your project has never been easier. They are growing a network of qualified contractors waiting to temporarily assist your team. Stop struggling with understaffed projects and visit them at altlaborsolutions.com and discover the power of collaborative success today. Alt Labor Solutions, your answer to meeting deadlines.
Yeah, so for a smaller contractor that doesn't want to get bigger and is comfortable with the employees he got.
Maybe it's got to be proportional, where you kind of show the last 5 years and see what your growth was, and then you present it, and I go, we're predicting this.
I think what you're getting at, things like, for us, things like insurance and WSIB, those in Ontario, tax, the Ontario tax credit would be great based on, you know, the type of, if there was an increase in how many employees. Yeah. Workers' comp is a great example. You know, if we can reduce those numbers, you know, every time we turn around, and you know, COVID, we added even more items that we had to pay for because of COVID on WSIB.
PPE.
So if we
I think WSIB should at some point be reversed.
Yeah.
So if you've got a pretty good standard, like there's no issues whatsoever, your company's still growing and you're doing really well, and there's no reports or no
you get
claims
credits for that already.
But I think it should be dramatically.
Should be more.
It should start returning the other way, right? There's no reason for an organization in this country where it has a surplus of billions of dollars.
No.
Right.
There's no reason for that.
Yeah.
At that point, you should start giving back to the workers.
I agree.
But again, we're tradespeople, we're not politicians. And politicians are never tradespeople. I don't think there's a single politician I've ever heard or read about that was from construction.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
No.
My lecture, I was a plumber, not a politician.
Yeah. Which makes a lot of sense. I mean, even with Monty's point, he worked at a home hardware. Like, that's not really a tradesperson, right? No. So that was the like.
I ran my business at the same time as being a politician too, so lost lots of money, but.
But see, now you're in construction and you're not a politician.
Yes,
so
exactly.
one happened, one didn't.
And I didn't make more money going into politics.
You never. Well,
I lost $30,000 a year in my company.
We won't go down that path yet. I'm just like, there's plenty of money to be made in politics.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
I paid $22,000 a year.
Yeah,
I didn't make any money other than that.
I'd love to ask you, gentlemen, if you were to like just wipe it clean and start it from scratch, how would you run this?
we would have all the same answer right now.
And what would that be?
We want to become controls contractors.
Yeah, exactly. Johnson Controls and
any kind of controls contractor. It's just the prices that come in for stuff. Like we submit it because we understand it and we know.
Well, we have to carry it as well.
Yeah, we have to carry it, but we're always asked to break it out as well, right?
Yeah.
So break it out. So, for example, like I'm not going to name the contractor, but we had 17 relocated thermostats. We had a full floor of renovations on the sheet metal side, and we were like 33,000 on. I'm just using numbers there, but there are 33,000 on just the whole renovation: ductwork, grills, diffusers, name it. They came in at $40,000 for 17 relocated stats. They're not even providing new product, right? So you're like, we always talk. We're like, we're in the wrong business, man.
It's
like,
well,
I have a personal vendetta with that. After I'm done with this company, and many years from now, I'm going to go after controls. It's the larger
company we worked for at one point. They were electrically based, and we were doing, I think it was 6 floors downtown, and the control contract was $187,000 each floor. And we did all the back wiring, and our back wiring was $22,000 a floor. So somebody sat on a floor, 2 guys actually, sat on a floor with a computer for the day for the rest of the $160,000 of programming.
Yeah.
So
It's a racket.
yeah, it's big time.
Well, I guess when they find it and they realize that there's a benefit here.
They become like the base building standard. Then you can't use anyone else. You're forced to use them, so they can charge you whatever. And then there's not really a way around it unless you get landlord approval or like the owner of the buildings.
They have to change the software, and that's where they got, they say it's all about the R&D into the software.
Yeah, once the infrastructure set up on the building, they're not going to change the whole building. So
No,
the controls vendor's
exactly.
there, and it might be a 10, 15 year, sometimes even 20-year contracts.
It's a cost to the tenant. So you may go in the building cost to upgrade all the controls at a cheaper price, but then you may bill the tenant to make up for what you lost, right? Just to get the contract, right?
I've been challenging a lot of the buildings with this, and Nexus has helped us out. I've had controls costs come at like $100,000, and then I show them quotes from these guys and be like, "We could do the same work for 20." Like, how do you explain it? And the building would be like, "Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Why is my guy charging that much?" We're like, "This is your guy." Then they'll go back and actually like argue with their own vendor, and they'll give me approval. I'll bring them in, and we'll do it for $80,000 cheaper, and their tenant will benefit from it. We'll get someone in the space, and a lot of these buildings are starting to pay attention now.
Well, and if you look at construction,
I'm definitely going to have a target on my back if I keep doing it.
No, you're absolutely
As
right.
much as we say like we want to, that's our our next life. We'll want to be a controls contract. We say that, but our background is we're loyal, right? We don't want to rip anybody off. We're not out there to some companies out there that
Just be fair.
we're just being fair with everybody. And some contractors want you to add so much for them to pocket, right? But you know what? I hate doing that. But then at the end of the day, you're going to lose working with this contractor. And the more that contractors do it, the less contractors you're going to have if you go against it, right?
But going back to the controls as well, I think the industry, again, with technology, because it's so much easier to break out our software, when they have knowledge of what the breakout is, it puts somebody, anybody that is high and it looks extreme, they're having to answer to their own number, where they haven't had to in the past because we're carrying it. It's so now when you ask,
We break it out every single time.
we
Every
should.
single time.
It's just a reality. It should be, and that's no different than high-end residential. High-end residential, they have as much or more controls. Some of the houses we've done, you need to be a programmer to run the house.
Yeah.
It's a different construction job site nowadays.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
It kind of reminds me of a post that's going around right now on social media of a homeowner talking about hiring a plumber, and the homeowner was really upset that she paid $300 for this plumber to come in to take care of something for 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever it was. And she was just amazed that it cost so much to take care of this. And then what people are not understanding, which people are jumping on this post saying, you don't understand what's behind that $300.
No.
You pay for the 20 years experience.
Exactly, right?
Or just like I look at it every single day, to fill his truck up is $176 a week. And that's running 350 to 400 kilometers. So just those costs alone, the cost of the labor, your experience is huge. The safety devices we have to provide, which are important, and
The training.
all the training.
The cost of rolling out of bed has gone up. That's just the bottom line.
That also
right?
works in the construction industry. Like, let's say you do a change order. Let's
that's
say I want to relocate this grill. The engineers will approve your change order, or the GCs will just look at it and say, well, it only takes you 5 minutes. Okay, well, I was off site. I got to come back on site, remobilize.
Schedule
I got to
it.
bring a ladder.
Yes.
There's
Change the as-builds, change the drawings.
Exactly. So there's a lot in the background that they don't understand, and like even with a piece of equipment, let's say the change order says supply a new heat pump. I'll put 18 hours to install that heat pump. Like, it doesn't take you 18 hours. I said, all right. So how do you want me to cover my warranty on that heat pump if the manufacturer, you want me to carry a warranty for a year? So if I got to come back 2-3 times in this year that there's something wrong with the heat pump, you don't account for that. And
It shouldn't be a conversation.
They just don't understand it, right? So, and there's a lot of youth in the engineering industry as well. Like back in the day when I was on the tools, I'd call the engineer directly. We get close, you understand each other. You're like, I trust your work. Put it on your as-built. Do it. Go ahead. As long as there's no extra cost. There's extra cost. Send me an email. Fine. But if it's just something that is just an as-built, no extra cost, they sign off on it later. Now, it's out the door. There's no. Everything has to be put on paper, backup on email, and approvals, proper approvals. Because there's a lot of young engineers that don't understand everything. So they receive the RFI or the change order, and then they go to their engineer, supervisor, or manager, right? So then they review it. Then that's how it works now. Because there's so many engineers involved. Back then, it was a lot easier.
I think the trail, though, is more consistent nowadays versus what it used to be. It's not word of mouth and emails, and the software has made it easier for us to keep that, so everybody feels a little more at ease when
There's
it comes
a lot
to
more hands-on now, in
definitely.
the office. Like, I had a hard time leaving the office to go to a job site.
Yeah.
Because I estimate everything, I project manage everything. I'm dealing with my employees, and back then I always looked at my boss. He was always on job sites every 3 days or something like that. But then I realized that he was doing all the paperwork I'm doing now, because there's a lot of email trails that you have to keep following it, RFIs. Back then it was just like you call the engineer, call the general, and just make the decision on site.
Yeah.
You're done.
Follow up
right?
with the as-builts.
And being on site was, and he was really busy, and that's what I was saying before, is that he brought me into to estimating, and then I kind of branched off, and I had my he was taking care of the sheet metal division, and he had a plumbing supervisor. David was one of them. And then he asked me, he says, listen, you're doing a great job. He says, I can't manage the sheet metal department anymore. Are you interested? So I became sheet metal supervisor. So I started supervising some of my foremen that I had under me. So I became above them, right? There was a dispute on who taught me the most.
I bring that up because I don't think construction increased their rates during the funny years that we just recently had, the same way that almost every other industry increased.
No.
Like the wages and the material costs and all this stuff, we probably historically went climbing normal versus every other industry spiked and kept it at a spike.
The unfortunate thing is, though, we're having to carry the increased costs, in especially material, and which is kind of interesting because a lot of our materials in the plumbing perspective and steel, it comes from Canada, so it shouldn't be any more money, except for the fact that they have the same labor issues that we do.
But the labor rates were also set by the unions pre-pandemic.
3 years in
so
advance.
it was an advantage to that.
Yeah. So
but it's a
and the
disadvantage
non-union
to the worker.
It is a disadvantage to the worker.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
It was a year ago where like almost every trade went through their strikes. It started with drywall, then went to HVAC, and they guaranteed all their wages for 3 years, and 2 more years from now, or 4 years. Yeah, I think it's 2 more years from now. We'll probably go through it again.
Yeah.
That's the only way. Wages go up is once their contract ends. Then they
the
do a strike.
non-union rely on the contracts of the union so that they can base and not. They don't want to let their guys leave them to go to union, so they got to pay them a fair wage, right? So,
and that's why I go back to, I don't think the tradespeople are being paid enough. So then when it becomes an argument about, I think I'm paying you too much for the time that you came here, and then same thing with, we shouldn't be absorbing the material costs.
No.
So
And
companies
during
that are producing
COVID,
the material
during
are
COVID,
benefiting.
we actually had to suck up the cost of the job, even though what it was costing us. So we would be able to work on one floor only a week or a day, and then another crew would have to come in. We were having to suck up that. None of the clients and end users were sucking that up.
I think I was the only one that let people resubmit some of their contracts because we locked in deals and then they shut us down because we weren't essential. Businesses weren't essential, or offices, I should say, weren't essential for a while. And then when we got the green light to go, they're like, "Oh, prices have gone up. We can't do it at what we priced 6 months ago." I said, "You know what? Resubmit the prices," and I ate the cost on that end, which sucked, but I wanted to get the work done, so we had to do it.
I just felt like the
It was a
industry
tough time.
was surviving more than thriving.
Exactly.
While other industries were thriving.
Yeah.
That's why I don't really enjoy those conversations with any client or anybody that's saying that you're being overpaid.
I know.
Yeah, especially the construction industry. you're putting your body through a lot, right?
Well, you're putting your mind through a lot as well.
Yeah,
you get both.
Yeah, both. But and just to sit there and say that you're not worth that money as a construction worker, it's just a slap in the face, really. It's like, I'm not worth this money, because I'm worth more, right? And come down, like some of the guys that are retiring now that I have, they're in rough shape.
Oh yeah.
They can't wait to get out, and they've slowed down. They're costing me money on the job right now, but I'm keeping them on. They're loyal guys.
Are they in rough shape physically for what purpose? They just the job itself.
I've had 2 surgeries on both my elbows, and I was only I was there for 32 years on the tools. So your body just can't take it all. It's repetition, right? And
It's the repetition.
Tin knockers, you're losing your hearing as well, like banging all the
there's a whole
ductile.
thing there, right?
Yeah, and
Power
I got guys
tools.
with arthritis. They can't cut anything with their snips anymore, and
I've
and
lost hearing.
That was
too.
their that's their main
their
tool,
livelihood.
right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
now it's like they're cutting everything with grinders or.
It's
bandsaws
kind of funny
and
when you
stuff
sit
like
at
that,
a
right?
dinner
It's even
table.
louder.
When you sit at a dinner table with a bunch of older tradesperson, and you have to set up your table based on what ear they can't hear out of. And if you're left-handed, you can't hear anything from that side, so which is my problem because I'm left-handed. So you sit looking this way. So someone's talking to you from that side, and you're like, okay, I can't hear you.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to use all the precautions. I had the earplugs, I had safety glasses, I had the harness for my belt, and still my knee gave out, and there was nothing I could do about it. It's just that going up and down the ladder, bending down to every outlet. You didn't realize that same repetition over and over. Even with all the safety gear, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It's the repetition part.
It's the repetition.
That's the thing
what
about
it is.
Because your body wasn't designed to do that task
Over
Not,
and
not
over
for
over
that
and
long
over
a
on an
time.
8-hour day. No, it's not, right?
Yeah.
And you start young, it doesn't hurt, and then 15
it
years
catches
later,
up.
all of a sudden,
It
it's like, oh,
catches
this
up.
really hurts. Something
And
simple.
As like my father always says, like he was always laying blocks, and you grab a block and you just always turn the one way.
The one way,
right?
yeah.
So your body kind of shifts to what you're always turning. So after a while, like when he was getting back pain, he had to adjust and start learning the other way, and then you kind of go half and half, right?
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to do that when you're used to laying, let's say,
Yeah.
so much,
Miles.
so many blocks an hour. All of a
try
sudden,
telling a mason to switch his hand
Right?
it is, yeah.
with the
But-
trowel. I mean, that's
Yeah.
going to be challenging to do
chance.
that.
Yeah, no, you don't switch it with the trowel. You switch it by how you're lifting up.
Placement.
No, I agree,
Yeah.
but just to
Yeah.
offset
Emotions.
it, right?
You've done it
Yeah,
for
exactly,
25,
right?
30 years.
Because it will benefit you and you'll last longer.
Yeah.
But the thing is,
Yeah.
try getting them to do that.
Yeah, be ambidextrous
Yeah.
with everything. Yeah, that'd be
That would be amazing.
That
but
would
I
be
mean,
amazing,
You're
yeah.
one in a few. You're a unicorn.
But the trick is too, like especially with that, is that usually they'll go from left to right, and then you're always grabbing right. But then when you're at the right wall,
So that means the whole crew has
Yeah.
to switch.
yeah.
now.
So what you have to do is that at your last block, you start from right to left.
We're going left today. No, we're going
That's
right
right, right?
today.
Start on the
But
north
that's
side.
just one challenge out there.
Yeah,
Like just standing on a ladder.
It's true.
A lot of guys will just put
Yeah.
more pressure on one side.
Yep.
So now they're favoring one leg.
Yeah.
It shifts
Don't
their
realize
body,
it.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and for myself too, like when I had multiple health issues, and one thing called pressure urticaria. If I get pressure, I swell up. So if I'm on a ladder and if I'm not wearing steel toes, let's say I'm at home, my feet will swell up like the day after, and then by being on a ladder, I lean my knees against the ladder.
Yeah,
my
I
knees
know
swell up too. So I got both knees, both feet swelling up. But how much steel toe boots or like with the steel plate underneath? It doesn't happen to me. Just my knees will swell up though. But you're kind of placing on yourself on a ladder that you're not going to be in pain. Like that. That's my challenge I have, right? But other people have similar challenges. Either they're more comfortable putting more pressure on one leg versus the other, right?
Well, you
But
hang pipe the same way
there's
for
so
30
many
years.
so many
sheet
guys
metal.
have their own issues health wise out there and their own body problems that it's hard sometimes to make money off those guys as well. But I don't look at what they can produce. I look at
Well, we
how
have
loyal
to-
they are at
yeah.
the same time, right?
Yeah.
But they also want to be loyal and they want to continue
And-
working.
Correct,
with
yeah.
you, But they do have problems, right?
Yeah, and if like we had one guy that we knew he was slow, and he smoked a lot, but he was very loyal, but I knew that
He was fair with his hours.
he
too.
never had to go back to his job, never had deficiencies, and that it could be a huge cost sometimes if you're getting a guy that
Save
flies
a
through
lot of
things.
money, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like
Quality
you
matters.
get a list. You get a list from the engineer. All this is wrong. then you're spending extra time on it to go through the list, and then you're sending a guy back to go fix the list, right? So I'm like, well, that wasn't a benefit to me. I'd rather have the slow guy finish the job properly and never have to think about it again.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you guys see the future of construction looking like? Well, you're going to get out of the game soonish or no?
Well, I'm a little afraid to leave the game because everybody that my age that leaves, mind you, I'm pretty active. Otherwise, I play a lot of sports, but they don't seem to last too long after they stop running every day. So I don't know.
Build your house?
Yeah,
Build another
I've probably got another 5 to 7 years, I figure.
Okay.
But I see it becoming more technical. I see it becoming more regulated too, and I see that from a couple of things. Consumption of this the new legal marijuana I think is also an issue we have to concern ourselves in our industry. I walked along King Street yesterday, and 3 construction sites. Now 3 of them were resi, but they were all smoking dope.
Really?
It was just waffling off.
I thought the rule was no.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
not.
supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely not.
But
alcohol.
what do you?
Now with all these vape pens, you can't even tell. It
You
just
can't.
looks
You're
like
absolutely right. So I think that
Can't
has
tell,
to be
but you
become
know
more
they're doing
regulated.
it.
If you look at the studies of how many construction workers admit to smoking marijuana or whatever form daily, it's huge.
Well,
huge.
it's not even just a weed. There's also harder substances. that are being-
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're right, drugs. But
Right. So
yeah.
in general, and I
Weed's
never
just
saw
on-
it on my. I mean, I smelled weed on mine and sent home. That was
Yeah.
it. Like I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
It's like 7:00 in the morning. We got to get spray foam in here. I don't need a waft
Yeah.
coming out of
Yeah.
the truck.
it happens even in the offices downtown.
Yep.
I'll come up a ladder and guy will step in. I'll be like, whoa.
Yeah.
Like, just grab your tools and go.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
This
So are they
go.
just turning to these vices to make their days easier, or what's like? It was just
I don't
a
know.
dependency?
You guys tell me. To me, it's something that
There's
helps
a lot of
people.
connectivity to
Anxiety is a
right?
huge. Anxiety is a huge thing.
I think it's how they like to function. They like to function high.
I just
Right?
think it's
It's-
just
you
so much
get
more
used to it.
accessible now. It's hard to
Yeah,
stop.
but it's just like alcoholism.
But do you want to be working next to a tradesperson?
Absolutely not.
No,
Absolutely
absolutely.
Wouldn't want to be.
We
No.
can't afford to have them on the job.
Nope.
No.
From a liability
Well,
perspective.
liability business wise, if that's
It's
found
huge.
out,
Oh, yeah.
now you
Reputation, too.
probably will not get the claim.
Yeah.
Try
Yeah.
to get someone that has, even through the unions, we've had people that have had both drug and alcohol issues, and we've been told what to do by them, and it's not something that's going to last. So it's not them helping them out with Alcoholics Anonymous or getting off the drugs. They look at it the same way. Get rid of them. Well, that doesn't help our industry. Our industry should be helping people as much as any other industry. But I just think it's one of those things that doesn't get spoken a lot in our industry.
The union,
unfortunately.
I did help a guy out. He was having problems with drinking, and I was at a point that he wasn't showing up on site. He wasn't necessarily drinking on site, but he would show up and he would smell like booze. But then I would call his wife, finding out I haven't seen him in 2 days, not picking up the phone. So yeah, it's normal. It was just a normal thing.
It's a
He's
binge,
probably
yeah.
his buddies, right? But it started sometimes I would call, and his daughter was like, "Yeah, I don't care where he is." He was having
They
a
were
bad,
used to it.
Yeah, but it was affecting their marriage and their family life, right? So I called the union and I told them, because technically employers should have the responsibility to bring it up to the union. It's their responsibility to get him help. And a lot of people wouldn't do what I do. They would just get rid of him. You're fired. And he's going back to the next contractor, and
You
he's doing
can't
the
do
same
that
thing.
because you're
So I
just-
called the union and I filed a claim. I said, listen, I'm not getting rid of this guy, but he needs help. You need to bring him in and talk to him. It's affecting his family life and everything. And they did. They brought him in, and they brought him up to on North Bay. There's a program there for Alcoholics Anonymous, and they shipped him out there. And I don't know. I never hired him back because they just told him, get him off your books. And then hopefully he got the help he needed, right? So, but they're like, nobody does that. You're like, what? Why? What makes you think that? I'm like, I owe it to the guy. I'm like, why would I let him
No, I
suffer
agree
through
with
his
you.
life
Yeah.
doing that, right?
So that's
So answering
people
your
in
question,
general.
going back to your question, which is what do you see the future? I see technology playing a bigger plan. I see a better or more streamlined products. Sheet metal is a great example. They're still knocking tin together every day, which just seems archaic to me.
It does.
If you look at plumbing, for example, the shark bites. Everybody and their brother's a plumber now because they just cut the pipe and put them on the line.
Yeah.
And which is great for the DIYs or whatever, but I see it our industry becoming more streamlined.
I don't see a big change in the sheet metal industry. Maybe in the shops with AI and everything, which might affect shop workers. But in the field, like, how are you supposed to get the air from one place to the next if you're not going to install ductwork, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, and if you bang it together in the shop, you bring it to site, it's bulky. You know, just your deliveries. Like, we only have a pickup truck for deliveries. We don't have cube vans or anything, or we ask them to deliver if it's big orders.
You got to
But you have
assemble it.
Yeah, you have to assemble it, right? Like, I think sheet metal industry has progressed since back in the day when they had benchmen.
Significantly,
Oh,
yeah.
huge.
And now, like, with the plasma tables and all that, you know, cutting everything, there's no more benchmen. There's no really,
Yeah.
No, it's all computerized.
yeah, there's no guys that
That's
can
what I
actually
mean.
make a good fitting
Technology
for
is
you.
great.
It's
Right?
all about the buildings and how they're set up. The new ones, like a lot of the new ones have raised flooring, so the HVAC has significantly changed. It's not above your head anymore. It's all coming from the floor, which is definitely new.
Yeah.
I enjoy seeing those advancements that they're doing. I think it's going to become way more advanced in terms of AI. Like, I have a small team dedicated to AI. It's like, oh, you could design and build. Why would you do that? It's like, we have a team that right now that has to, like, put together test fits in our drawings. It'd be nice to click a button, it does it for you in 30 seconds. So that's what we're working on. That's where I see
Smart
the advancement.
buildings I think are going to be more in tune in the next little while.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
We've been working on it now for about 25 years. You know, basically your card, you drive in or you take the subway, whatever, your entry into the building, starts up your computer, opens your blinds, gets your computer warmed up, that type of thing. We've been trying to get there for 25 years. It'd just make the buildings more efficient as well if your zone is shut down when it's not needed, and lights go on.
I've seen buildings where they have sensors on the toilet paper, and they know exactly when the toilet paper runs out.
Exactly.
Where's the sensor on the toilet paper?
It's like just like on the actual unit itself. So when it runs out, the guys know when to go to put
It's
it
not
back.
on the paper.
Those
I
are
was
like-
going to say, there's going to be
No.
some
Is it at
conspiracy
the
theories
end of
here.
the roll? Like when the roll's there, or the sensor's there? It's like you're out. No kidding.
It didn't make sense to me until the operation manager explained they were saving like hundreds of $1,000s on paper because they knew exactly when to replace it. Whereas before, the cleaners would go in, there'd be like 3/4 left. They'd take it out, throw it out, put a new one. Now they wait till it's like run down. It's like, you don't think of it, but it's like all those advancements are happening.
Those advancements are great, but it also still makes me a little nervous that if someone gets into those advancements that are not a part of the advancement protocol, then you can control buildings. At that point, right?
Well, yeah. Well,
Maybe the HVAC and maybe the control systems to get in and out. Yeah, I could definitely see that. And now there'll be a whole other industry for counteracting that. Or
Attention contractors, welcome to the future of construction resource management with our platform, where you can easily buy, sell, or rent tools, equipment, and materials with fellow contractors. Say goodbye to wasted time and resources. Need that specialized equipment for a specific project, or want to earn extra income from your underused resources? This platform has you covered. With its user-friendly interface and a vast network of trusted contractors, you'll find what you need or make your resources work for you seamlessly. Join the construction community that's changing the game. Visit them online at altlaborsolutions.com and start optimizing your resources today. Alt Labor Solutions, where contractors connect and resources thrive.
preventive, security.
I do.
Yeah.
But it may help the labor industry, though, at the same time.
I think you guys probably saw recently, like Hilti was that exoskeleton.
That
To help them hold
backpack,
the
the
SDS
drills.
and stuff
Yeah,
like
it's
that.
really
So
cool.
a lot of that happening, but the thing is the cost associated. You can't be a small little business and having one of those, or even having one for every single employee, right?
Well, it starts expensive, and then over the next couple of years,
It's
they'll
like
get cheap.
the-
Drills used to be like $800. Now you can get like 2 of them for $100, right?
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
a matter of.
Yeah.
In terms of labor, though, I think it's going to be more fluid. I don't think people are going to stay at a company for 10, 20 years like they used to. I don't think they should, to be honest. Like, we promote hiring, growing our guys, and then within 3-5 years, we want to actually ship them out. So then this is where we're creating like a Clear Space Academy. They're going to bigger, better positions, and eventually those fruits will come back to us.
But
And
Clear Space recommended.
that's,
move out.
exactly.
That's where the networking, that's what you're doing with Alt, right? Like you're also
Exactly.
networking other businesses, understanding that I vouch for this person. He did a really good job. She did an amazing job on this job.
Yeah.
She or he wants to get more experience in another one. I'm going to vouch for this person.
Yeah.
Then they go there and they get that experience.
Yeah.
So it's like the employer vetting as well internally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which is
100%,
beneficial.
Yeah.
You could totally see that happen.
Yeah. And like having a wider breadth of skills and talents is only going to benefit. It's like teaching the young generation. That's what you should do, but in a thoughtful way, not just like a frog where you go from 3 months in this company, 6 months in this. You'll never be able to establish it.
It's not about months.
Yeah.
I think it's years.
Yeah, it should
I
be.
think you have to be at least 2-3 years at one place, understanding
Exactly.
and absorbing as much as you possibly can before you make a decision to go. And if you go, have a conversation with the person that you're with, and having the conversation with the person that you're going to.
And not only being on one job for those
Yeah.
those 1 or 2 years, because it's repetitive after a while, right? But if you're like industry like we are, it's all smaller projects, tenant work, new builds, but we're not doing a full
But there's
tower,
some trades
right?
that love that. Just punching the clock for
Yeah.
the next
Yeah,
5 years.
correct, yeah.
Do the same thing.
And we do
Yeah.
get guys that want to do that. They're on the list, and we end up getting them. And then they just call your work shit work, right? You're like, well, sorry, we can't, have you cut cleats all day long, right?
Yeah.
And that's all they do. Some of the apprentices, right? But like we're here, we got a job at hand. I don't care if it's shitty or not. We still got to finish our job. We're in a contract. That's how we make money, right? So do your work, and we go home, and feel accomplished when you go home. I always loved finishing my job or finishing a task. Like nowadays, like 9 hours, and they call it quits. If I came up and I said, okay, I worked 9 hours, but I didn't finish something. Let's say I had 10 more feet of duct to throw up just to finish that run with the block.
it slows your next day.
It slows your next day, right? So I'm like, no, I'm going to stay an extra hour. I'm going to finish what I started and go right to the end, right? Yeah. And I always had the mentality. That's why I worked 60 to 80 hours a week. I had a lot of jobs, right? And some guys just want, 9 o'clock or 9 hours in, I'm out of here. Pack up your tools or half an hour before, and they start packing, cleaning up. Like, well, did you finish what you were doing? No. Right.
What's the best interview question that an employee can ask and an employer can ask?
The best one?
Well, what's a strong one, I guess, to ask from both perspectives?
I got one that I got asked, and it says, can you promise me work? And my response was, and I knew the guy was good. I said, I can't promise you work. I could promise you I'll keep you busy as much as I can, but the industry will throw loopholes. I can't control the industry, but I'm telling you, if there's guys that are weaker than you, I'll put you in their place and I'll put them at home. Right. But that's my response to you, is I will not promise that. I think I was actually in the truck with you when the guy asked me that. And if you want this job, that's my answer. And that was, and
it's a good question, good answer. Yeah.
And he took the job.
I guess probably the other question would be around the environment of your company. A lot of our industry, for a long time, there was a lot of yelling and screaming at people. And we don't do that. I don't expect to be yelled at, and I don't yell at anybody. And
I think there should be like a casual Fridays on a job site. Like we're just gonna bring it back.
Yeah, just grind their gears right down.
Respect is respect both ways, right?
Totally.
But it's also reading people. I find, like, I've learned over the years how to read people and their reaction to things. If somebody's upset, don't be as upset as that person.
Don't feed it.
No.
Bring yourself lower than what you are right now, and then you'll see that their tone will come down. Just a short story. went with my family ice fishing. First day on the lake, we don't really have the proper gear. We had a drill with a bit, whatever. We pull up there with 4 cars. We pass all the huts. There's no huts. We just had a tent, right? Anyways, we just wanted our 4 kids just to experience just being in a hut and with a line in the water. We get to the end. We just park right at the end. This truck comes in, and he's swearing the F-bombs and everything, right? And then he comes out all pitch red. And my sister was parked there, and I said, whoa, buddy, come here. And he's all, wow, you're in my effing way, this and that. I said, listen. And I reached out, I said, how's it going, man? Can I help you? He says, you guys are in my way. I'm like, just relax. I'm just here to talk to you. What's the problem? He says, you guys are in my way. And his tone started to go down. He says, you guys are in my way. There's a road here. I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I told my sister, I'm like, can you move out of the way? There's a road here. Right. And I was just being calm. Right. And his demeanor just come down. I said, so what are you doing today? Are you fishing? What are you fishing for? And you got a camp. And he's just answering questions. But now we're talking normal now. Right. But he went from this high to down. Like, I had to bring my level lower in order for me not to get as mad as him. So I brought my level lower, and then we kind of met in the middle afterwards. And then, so he left, and he says, it was the happiest guy after. He says, all right, shook my hand. He says, good luck out there, blah, 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 right? Total difference from when he showed up there. And then he left. My sister ended up telling the story to my dad, and my dad shook his head. He says, I don't know how Alex does it. He says, I would have punched him out.
But that's the go-to thought.
It is, right? Yeah. So, and I've used that throughout the years with my employees, and I feel like I've earned their respect as well, and they respect me because of it. And I'm not just going to be a hard-ass employer, and then I'm going to talk to them normal first, understand what happened on site, if there's an issue with losing money on a job, so many hours. You know, as much as I can get upset, I'm not going to call them yet. I'm going to calm down first, and then be level-headed when I have that discussion with them, right? So
you don't get any further by yelling.
It doesn't achieve anything.
Absolutely not.
No.
So it doesn't, right?
Yeah, and that's why I said it's mutual respect both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we've covered quite a bit. I don't know if there's anything
Well,
else.
I wanted to discuss a few things about the platform.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so one of the first features is that you can set up your employees on the platform with a charge out rate, so that you're ready for basically submitting them on the marketplace.
Yeah.
So there's a scheduling feature as well that you can utilize on a day-to-day basis. So you basically got a schedule, you set up a job. Let's say I got a Tim Hortons to do, set it all up. You put your employees, their qualifications, everything is set up in the project. So you can utilize the platform without the marketplace. Now, when it comes to the marketplace, you're only a few clicks away because you already got your employee set up. So all you do is like, okay, Thursday, Friday, boom, employee. You select your employee, you put them in there. The rate's already set, and then you just submit it. It's very simple. There's a few clicks away. So far the trades I have is HVAC, sheet metal, and plumbing. And as of today, I'm announcing this right now. Electrical trades.
I was about to say
The electrical trade is available on there. And the second announcement is that I also launched today a second module to the platform. It's called the Product Center. So it's a buying, selling, and renting platform that contractors can buy and sell tools, equipment, material.
So you're partnering with anybody or no? Okay.
We built it all ourselves, integrated it in the same platform.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's not just a labor center now. And if you go and subscribe with the labor center, the product center is free. You can actually be a contractor and go in and just subscribe to the product center. Then it's going to be $50 a month if you don't do the labor. So it's kind of wanting the guys.
You're kind of wanting the labor more.
Yeah, but a lot of guys, like if they're comfortable with, I'm just adding something else that it can utilize the platform. So because you don't always need to give your labor out or to get it back in or to get guys, right? So there's going to be some lulls that contractors aren't going to use the platform. That's why I incorporated the scheduling, so you can use it day to day.
Yeah.
And then if you have stuff to sell or that you need, like for example, like during the pandemic, I was trying to get a Genie lift, material lift, right? Stevenson's, everybody was out.
Even right now,
right?
it's like 2 weeks out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I was calling some other contractors, and I heard some guy, had like 30 in his yard, but he was off on vacation, and I couldn't get a hold of him. So it's just sitting there, right? And I have equipment that we bought at a job. It was a gantry. It's just like a big A-frame to lift equipment up, and that's just sitting in my shed. And like that thing was $6,000. We used it for one job, but we couldn't rent it at the time. There was nobody to rent it from.
Climbers the same.
And now with the rental product center on the rental side, I could rent it out, and you could preset your delivery fees, and you put it out there in the marketplace.
Is the objective? I mean, it's great to hear that you got electrical now, and now you got the top 3 on there.
I'm working my way through all the trades.
All the trades.
Trades.
That's what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and if anybody's got ideas, if this platform is good, like beyond construction, then I'm open for ideas, so they can reach out to me.
Drywall and taping specifically is a challenge for me. If you get that on, a lot of tapers are easy to move around. So I think you can benefit from
They'll
that.
enjoy moving around. Like they just love having.
They're all piece workers essentially.
Yeah. My next one that I plan is general contracting. So I'm going to get the generals involved in the platform.
And then you start getting the rest of the trades from
Yeah,
there.
but they could also. I'll put in there because you don't really want to sub out your project managers, because they're kind of busy all the time. But maybe like somebody that's cleaning, like your cleaners,
Like a labor,
or something like that, right? You just
General cleaner.
general labor. You put them on there, but also to have access to the entire platform and see who else. If they need bodies and their contractor is not pulling their weight, they can see, okay, this guy's got 2 guys for a week.
Okay.
And then they can actually tell them to either join the platform or they can actually subcontract them.
Now, how easy is the adoption? Like, is it simple to?
Oh, very simple.
Very simple,
Yeah.
right?
We have a help center that gives you videos on your step-by-step, just your sign up. We're going to update it coming up shortly because we kind of revamped the structure. Because we're not only posting now, this is the other portion of it, we're not only posting if you have available labor, we're also now posting if you need labor. So one thing that I noticed is that, especially the guy the contractor that called me for the school work net.
Yeah.
So as a union employer, I'm not going to post guys on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? Because I don't know if they're available so what if a contractor needs a guy Friday, Saturday, Sunday in double time and they're willing to pay it? Mm-hmm. So have them put an ad out in the marketplace that I need guys for the weekend, and other contractors see that
works.
right?
totally
Then they're
work.
like, they start calling their guys, hey, you guys want some double time? I can sub you out. Meanwhile, you're still making, a 10, 20% markup on their labor, and it's clear cash to them. There's no overhead, right?
Can the employees see those offers too and just sign up themselves?
No. So they'd have to just subscribe
Still
as
subscribe.
an employer. Yeah. And the one thing I do,
Side jobs would be a good idea.
Yeah.
the one thing that I do wanted to make sure is that employee names are not disclosed. So no employee names are disclosed at all until there's a contract signing. Then you say, okay, I'm sending you Joe and Bob, right? But even you can actually withhold your company information until the contract signing. So on your ad, you can hide everything, your logo, everything. It just kind of gives you a general idea where your map is, because there's a Google Maps that we have integrated into the platform. And at that point, once you contract sign, then you need to know who you're dealing with. So that's disclosed on who you are there. And the employees, there's no employee names at all that is disclosed to other contractors, only in your internal employees.
Because you're hiring on the skills,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And the tasks that you're looking for.
Correct. Yeah. So your employee will be either officially involved with, let's say, a sheet metal worker, and he's a gas fitter. That's going to come up when you submit it. It says, okay, he's a sheet
And
metal
years of
journeyman.
experience and any
Well,
certification.
years, like I right now, I've only got it listed as like A1 to A5, apprentice 1 to 5th year, or journeyman foreman, or general foreman, whatever. Those are the simple ones to integrate into the platform. There is a description box that you can write into your marketplace ad to add any additional information. So, yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty good. I think the industry needs it. No, like
Yeah, I think so too.
I know the industry needs
Yeah.
it.
And that's why I've been getting a lot of people, but it's just to get them to know me and to trust what I have. I think I was kind of sitting in the background a bit and trying to, like I have done a lot of ads on LinkedIn. I did some on Facebook. I'm going to attack YouTube next. And there is Google ads too that I can jump at, but I'm going to start venturing off. And I'm also attending the CMPX show in March.
Yep.
So I got a 10x10 booth there, and I'm going to get people to register right there and then if they want to register their companies. And I'm going to have a computer
It's a
set
good
up.
show. It's a big show.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that one. That one's going to be exciting. We're also going to, I'm planning on giving draws out. So anybody that signs up, I'll throw a draw, and there'll be prizes for the winner and all
What are you
that.
guys giving out Milwaukee?
No, I was.
You're
well, I was-
that guys. Is it
Yeah, it's
Milwaukee?
always Milwaukee, right?
yeah. Right now, I've got some Leaf jerseys.
Oh, okay,
that are
all right,
in
no
stock,
tools. All right.
But also free memberships. So I'll be different tiers, maybe the first year. Or
Have you booth number yet? Not yet.
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you remember
I think
it?
it's
or-
241. If I'm not mistaken, it's 241. Yeah.
All right. Well, we can do a video later on and just let as it gets closer because that's not till March anyway, right?
Yeah, correct, yeah.
We're at start of November right now, so it's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
No, I love what you're doing. It makes a lot of sense, and I think it's going to benefit the industry, right?
Yeah.
And more people should just jump on board, right? I guess technically it doesn't connect with you because you're hiring him.
But it does benefit him.
It
If
benefit.
I
Yeah,
have
that's right. That's what I mean.
tons
yeah.
of trades that I could push it to, and
Yeah.
then when they're shorter in labor, they can go straight to him, which benefits me in the long run. So.
Exactly.
Yeah,
At
but the
end.
product doesn't work unless all contractors can collaborate.
Yeah.
You know, that's the biggest thing, and I'm not going to charge anybody for the platform right now until we get a substantial amount of contractors in each area dealing with each other. Like I got somebody that's subscribed in Ottawa. There's nobody else in Ottawa. So I emailed the guy. I said, listen, until I can get somebody there, like the platform's free. You know, I'm like, you know, I got to get into every area. And I launched it right across Ontario. But at some areas like Toronto, if that picks up, you know, like maybe as soon as it hits like 50, 75 subscribers, then, you know, I'll notify everybody. I'll give you like 30 more days and then
You
it's
just
going to
want
start.
people right now to sign up. That's it. Just
Well,
check it out.
yeah.
Sign up.
Sign up, you know, utilize.
Give it a try. That's it.
100%. And now that with the buying and selling site, the product center, I think that a lot of contractors may like that because I've talked to a few that my warehouse is just full of stuff that I can get rid of, and it's just sitting there. You know, there's jobs that, you know, there's change orders, and all of a sudden you got product that you bought, and like for myself, I got sheds full of grills and diffusers and stuff that, you know, I use it as I go, but sometimes it's like, I'm never going to use this. Like, put it out there, you know, put an ad out, see if
I
anybody
think
can use
every
it.
tradesperson has
Yeah.
a surplus of stuff.
I got a
somewhere.
50 horsepower
warehouse.
mortar sitting, 50 horsepower motor sitting in my garage right now. It's still crated. I got a plywood on top of it, and I use it as a table. But I want it out of there because I don't have room. But I also don't want to throw it out.
Have
you
a
know?
contractor garage sale or something like that.
Yeah, I tried to sell it on Kijiji, Craigslist. Like it just
It becomes a
It's not
pain.
hitting the
but
right
you're
market.
not. Yeah, you're not hitting the right demographic, right? So, and having this contractor base is that you're only dealing with contractors.
Yeah.
You know, and
I go back to language.
exactly right.
Yeah.
So, and
Exactly.
if other contractors see that, we're like, oh, geez, there's a 50 horsepower motor. Like, it's another platform to go to instead of go and look at Kijiji or something like that. I need something quick, right? So let's check it out and see what's on there, right? I've already got battery drills and DeWalt stuff posted there. So,
Online already?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, they might have deleted it because we did the deployment last night. They were saying they were going to merge everything over, but I did have a couple ads already set up during my testing stages. But
It kind of makes sense to have that because you're already pooling people together, tradespeople. So then they'll all have their version of created something in there.
Yeah.
And then they might want to post it as well and share it.
I'm also looking at future expansion, not only with other trades. I want to get involved with women in trades, and I want to discuss with organizations out there on how to do it better. But one of my ideas was to empower women to become their own employer. If they become their own employer, they'll bring in more women.
Yeah.
Right. And those women can learn from the women and not be so scared of confronting men on a job site. So let's say we have an all women contracting team. Then if they don't like it, then they can start branching off. Right. And then they keep bringing more women in. So by having this platform, we can try to empower them to become an entrepreneur and own their own business, right? So those are future
There's
expansion
a lot
thoughts.
of time. Like, so when do you have time to actually?
I don't have time at all.
You don't have time. Like,
We converse at very late hours of the evening and very early hours of the morning.
Yeah,
It's-
like Kevin will know, like I'm sending emails at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. Just I don't expect answers. Everybody knows that you
you're
don't
just
need to
sending
answer.
the thought out into the universe.
But
That's all it
I
is.
do spend my time that I need to with my family, and working from home is a great benefit.
Huge advantage.
You know, the kids come home from school. I'll usually work till like 5:30. Then I spend time with the kids, right? And then I do homework with the young one. Come 8 o'clock, they're going to bed. 8 o'clock, I jump back on the computer and I do my thing.
But when this explodes and it becomes huge,
It should be
that's
self.
going to be a different.
Yeah, I do have two people on staff, so they're in the background now. But when it explodes, I do have family members that are willing to help out and jump in. So, but my whole train of thought was to build this platform that would be just self-manageable, and a lot of the features on there is basically self-manageable. So I can't complain.
I love it, man. It's great. Wish you the best for it. So
No, thank you very
just
much,
watch
yeah.
it grow. It's going to be good. So
Yep.
I'm sure that the show's going to actually give it a big boost as well too, right?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
all. The word once the word gets out, but then you just up to that one hurdle, new in construction.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We all know it as being the older guys here at the table. It's just like it's challenging to.
Yeah, and for $89 a month, like to me, like there was debates on what to charge, right? And originally, like people were saying, dude, really cheap, 49. No, he's like, this should be like huge, like $200 a month. I said, listen, I'm not here to gouge contractors. I want something that's fair. And if I look at it, some of the labor rates are $89 an hour, right? Give or take, you know? So I'm looking at it, it's like, okay, if it's going to cost you an hour of labor per guy and your guy is not going to be sitting at home,
It kind of makes sense.
It's worth it for you to do that because you're going to make money off of that guy sitting at home, right? You got a markup. You're allowed to mark up, right? So to me, I was like, I'm not going to gouge. I'm not going to go too low. Let's go in between. And then if the double trades, like it starts going lower and lower. So I got $89 a month for a single trade. If you got a double trade is $150 and triple trade $210. So it's going to get lower and lower the more trades you got. So like we have 3 trades. We're going at $210, right? Now that there's some companies that have electrical with mechanical, so that's 4 trades, you know. So we have different tiers, like that keeps going up, like slightly, but there's always a discount to it. And if you pay yearly, you get a free month.
So if you have any questions, just reach out to you at info@altlabor.com or sorry, laborsolutions.com.
Yep.
And then also check it out on the website, which is www.altlaborsolutions.com. And then all over, you're mostly on LinkedIn, right?
Mostly on LinkedIn for now, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Alex, thanks so much, man.
Yeah,
I really
thank you very
appreciate
much.
coming in. And David, Kevin,
Thanks.
you guys are busy. You guys are going back to work right now? Is that the idea?
Absolutely.
Yeah. My phone's been vibrating. Like
That's why
crazy.
the early
My
morning
podcast.
show is recorded. So yeah, no. I want to thank everybody that we had a great conversation here, and it's always been a problem that we won't solve it, but it's going to get solved, and if we can just keep on contributing to it, it's going to get better. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
okay,
Thank you
that's
very
it.
much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
We're out of here, Angelina.